saying that they're going to have to raise prices. The latest monthly figures show appliances, clothing, and furnishings got more expensive in June. We saw a weak U.S. jobs report last week that led Trump to fire the head of the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. So it's still early, but the impact of these tariffs is starting to ripple through the U.S. economy.
Tom Perry in Washington, thank you.
Thank you.
And sign off, please, Tom.
Tom Perry, CBC News, Washington.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.
Are being given a little gift, a memento from the camp, which consists of a bracelet of red thread, which is in the Christian faith is a symbol of loving care, a safety pin, which in Ukraine represents protection, and a little tiny metal hippo on it. And a hippo is part of Gen Ukrainian, the charity's logo. And it's a hippo because they say in nature the hippo is the most loving, loyal parent. Of course, that means a lot for the kids here whose fathers are missing. Oksana, how are you feeling?
As always, I'm sad. Always difficult to say goodbye, but we're gonna be in touch with them long time. As they need us, we're always in touch with them.
One little boy, Ilya, seems very upset. He doesn't want to go home.
Yes, in every camp we have a child like this. Sometimes they are not able to distinguish their emotions. And here the place where you can open all your emotions. And when he opened it, probably, he felt that it's a real sad, actually, time. So, no, it's going to be okay, everything, because we have a special program to close everything. And they will have a group in chats, so everything going to be okay. It's kind of network as well, if they want. And here, don't forget that here, maybe first in their lives, they found people who went through the same experience. And it's very important. For children, group therapy is much more important than everything. To see that you are not alone with this pain. It's very important.
Many of the children will be going back to cities that come under fire almost every day, like Nastya, whom we spoke to earlier.
Kharkiv comes under fire a lot. If it's far away, then I don't worry. If it's close, I go and shelter in the corridor. I worry about my relatives. I stress a lot.
When you think about your dad, what kind of memories do you have about him?
I love him very much, and I know he loves me too, and he would do anything to make me happy. So I'm thankful for the good times that we experienced together. I'm glad of that more than I'm sad, because I hope we can make new memories with him again.
Has the camp made you feel better?
Yes, I think I've started feeling better. I've been having fun with friends and I've been really enjoying it.
I am very proud. I understand that my dad was a hero. He went to fight for me, to protect me. When Dad went missing, I thought if he sees me crying, he won't be happy, because Dad didn't like being sad. He was always happy. He used to encourage me to look on the bright side and not to cry about silly things. I understood that when my dad sees me sad, he will be sad too. So I try and be happy, just like my dad.
They got their luggage and they're getting on the bus now. That'll take them to the station and by train onto the capital, Kyiv. There's a long journey ahead for a lot of them. They're going to have to cross the whole country to get back home. As the luggage is loaded, the final hugs are given out, the last selfies taken. The kids and the staff wave at us through the bus windows. I was going to say that it's back to normality for them, but for the children of Ukraine, there is no normality. For a lot of these kids, home means air raid sirens and explosions and fear. And of course, the constant pain of their missing loved ones. Perhaps now, though, after this 2 weeks at the camp, they'll be better equipped to cope with that pain. That's Assignment from the Carpathian Mountains of Ukraine. I'm Will Vernon. The producer is John Murphy.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba. It is Thursday, August 7th. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. Let's say hello and good morning to our team today. Abby Adiemi is our technical producer. Sierra Sanders is our show director this morning. Azika Abdelatif is our YouTube live stream producer. And Heather Wells is here with news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, health officials in Manitoba say an Indigenous man endured racism while seeking health care in the final months of his life. Stephen Rockwell's family say hospital staff failed to take his concerns seriously on 3 visits to Thompson's Hospital. We'll hear what happened coming up. Some of the last wildfire evacuees from Tatasqueyak Cree Nation began their happy journey home last night. Nearly 70 people boarded a bus in Winnipeg bound for the First Nation northeast of Thompson. They've been away from home, these last ones, since May. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Coming up today on Information Radio, the Women's Health Clinic is looking for crafty people who can lend their skills to help those experiencing pregnancy and infant loss. The goal is to create 1,000 crocheted, knitted, or sewn hearts to add to their care packages. We'll learn more. As well, from the big screen to the pasture, down south, blasting cattle ranches with the explosive argument scene from the movie Marriage Story. Method the key to fixing what some local out-of-control wolf population. 2 Manitoba ranchers with a big wolf problem will weigh in. As well, there's nothing a good old handshake can't fix, right? That's what the CEO of the International Peace Garden is hoping, at least, ahead of Handshake Across the Border. The new event is aiming to bring together hundreds of Canadians and Americans this weekend in a show of friendship amid continuing political tensions. For these stories, some weather updates, music, and more, you can stay with us here on Information Radio, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on our CBC Listen app. We'll be back just after CBC's World Report.
Today on Q.
I'm Garvey Bailey, sitting in for Tom Power. Debbie Young and Itafrika grew up in Jamaica watching their mom perform as a dub poet, and they knew they wanted to do the same thing.
Our language of integrity.
They're an acclaimed playwright and performer on an incredible career.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen, wherever you get your podcasts.
World Report. Good morning. I'm Sam Sampson. The cost of goods entering the U.S. from dozens of countries is jumping. New tariffs between 10 and 50% have now taken effect. Celebrating the revenue it will generate. The CBC's Tom Perry joins us from Washington. Tom, what is Trump saying about all this?
Donald Trump was back on social media last night. He posted a message in all caps just before midnight. He said that reciprocal tariffs take effect at midnight tonight, billions of dollars, largely from countries that have taken advantage of the United States for many years, laughing all the way, will start flowing into the USA. So that was Trump declaring victory as his tariffs kicked in on more than 90 countries. So Brazil is facing a 50% tariff. Laos and Myanmar are at 40%, Switzerland at 39%. And these are countries that have not struck a deal with Trump, though even those countries that have are still getting hit. The European Union, for instance, has agreed to a 15% tariff on its goods. Now, Trump says he's not done. He's talking about a new tariff on semiconductors. Here's what he said about that yesterday.
100% tariff on all chips and semiconductors coming into the United States. But if you've made a commitment to build, or if you're in the process of building, as many are, there is no tariff.
So that was Trump talking about a tariff on semiconductors. Now, America's neighbors, Canada and Mexico, still haven't reached any agreement with Trump, and they're really still seeking clarity on what their largest trading partner expects from them.
How are these tariffs being felt in the U.S.?
Well, you know, Trump is not wrong when he says these tariffs are generating billions of dollars. They brought in roughly $152 billion through July, but as economists point out, despite what Trump says, it's not foreign countries or foreign governments that are paying these tariffs. That money is coming largely from U.S. importers, and we've heard from U.S. businesses who are saying that they're going to have to raise prices. The latest monthly figures show appliances, clothing, and furnishings got more expensive in June. We saw a weak U.S. jobs report last week that led Trump to fire the head of the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, so it's still early, but the impact of these tariffs is starting to ripple through the U.S. economy.
Tom Perry in Washington, thank you.
Thank you.
In northern India, rescuers are evacuating people left stranded by flash flooding. People are being picked up by helicopter because many of the roads are washed out. Officials say 400 people need to be rescued. So far, just half of them have been airlifted to safety. Intense rains triggered flooding and landslides this week. It washed away cell towers and knocked out power. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting with his security cabinet today. He's expected to make his case for an expanded military action in Gaza. That's according to Israeli media. It's a move that would face huge opposition in Israel and internationally. Susan Ormiston is following the story in Tel Aviv.
The government plan backed by Benjamin Netanyahu is being characterized as a 5-month military maneuver that will push into Gaza City and try to move 1 million people towards the south, according to sources speaking to Israeli media. These are areas not currently held or controlled by the IDF, and it's believed where the remaining 20 surviving hostages are held. Critics argue it would be extremely risky, endangering hostages and guaranteeing more Palestinian and IDF soldiers' deaths after already 22 months of war. Last night, the families of hostages scuffled with police during a protest around the Israeli military headquarters in Tel Aviv.
We need your help that this time all 50 hostages will be released, because a month later, just a year ago, my family member was executed by Hamas terrorists.
They've called Netanyahu's plan a disastrous decision. Were to be voted in tonight, it could still be modified or changed. The move also signals the government has no current expectation for successful ceasefire talks. Hamas has hardened its position in recent days, saying it will not disarm before the guarantee of a Palestinian state. Egypt reports nearly 1,000 trucks have been able to cross into Gaza over the last 10 days, an improvement, but far below the basic needs of civilians. Daily distribution at the aid centers backed by Israel and the U.S. are functioning, but they are chaotic and sometimes deadly. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Tel Aviv.
Manitoba's government says it is taking steps to eliminate racism from the healthcare system. But Stephen Rockwell's family says it's got a long way to go. The 33-year-old father died from cancer. His loved ones say his health concerns were ignored because he is Indigenous. As Ian Fraze reports, they are still pushing for answers.
He went somewhere where they were supposed to help him, and they didn't give him help.
Stephen Rockwell was in remission from leukemia in late 2023 when his sister says he made 3 trips to the Thompson Hospital in severe pain. Stacey Rockwell says he was sent home without any medical testing and accused of just looking for drugs.
And they let him suffer? That's wrong.
His family says the hospital only treated him with urgency after a chiropractor felt something odd in his back. Stephen's cancer had returned. 4 months later, in March 2024, he died. His family says his health issues were ignored because he was Indigenous. And in July, officials, at the request of the health minister, met the family. Minister Yuzoma Seguera said,
"Cancer diagnosis is challenging for anyone. Adding experiences of racism into that healthcare journey is really just unfair."
Northern Health runs the hospital. It expressed condolences to the family and says it's committed to eliminating Indigenous-specific racism. Stephen's mother, Leona Massan, still has questions.
I was thinking about what if they would have listened to us?
A heartbreaking loss the family says might have been avoided with more care. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A number of people who bought digital Costco gift cards, say their cards have been drained of all the cash. The retailer is saying little about what happened. So reporter Sophia Harris went digging, and she found the problem may be gift card fraud.
I checked my balance and was shocked to find that there were $0 on there.
Shelley Shue of Perth, Ontario, got a nasty surprise in June. She discovered someone had drained the roughly $200 on her digital Costco gift card, known as a shop card.
I was very upset.
There are dozens more customer complaints online about drained shop cards. CBC News spoke with 5 affected customers. They said Costco offered few details about what happened, and 2, including Shue, are still fighting for a refund.
Yeah, I've been really disappointed with how Costco has managed this situation.
Costco didn't respond to repeated requests for comment, but in a letter sent to some victims, the retailer stated its ongoing investigation indicates that a limited number of digital shop cards may have been used by unauthorized individuals.
They're aware there's an issue.
Lawyer and business professor Daniel Chai says Costco needs to be transparent.
The proper thing for Costco to do right now is to admit there's a problem and not let this fester.
The Retail Council of Canada says Canadians lose millions of dollars each year due to gift card fraud. And those victims don't always get their money back. Tech analyst Ritesh Kotak says that needs to change.
It is important that we create better mechanisms in place, more protection, and also remedies to make people whole that have been victimized by these fraudsters.
$200, that's a good chunk of money.
As for Shue, she's hopeful her refund is coming soon. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Victoria Mboko is going to the final. The 18-year-old tennis player will face a formidable opponent tonight at the Canadian Open in Montreal. Sarah Levitt reports.
She has done it again, the new Canadian queen of the court, Victoria Mboko, now onto her first ever major final in the big leagues.
The storybook continues.
The 18-year-old came into Montreal's National Bank Open relatively unknown, but her smashing success has won over the crowd. She says she's grateful for it.
Playing in front of the home crowd obviously has its advantages. You know, you always have everyone pumping you up as much as they can.
Tournament director Valérie Tétrault has watched it all with excitement.
Just a couple months ago, she was probably the one still talking about who her role models were. And now, all of a sudden, well, she's becoming the idol of the young players.
One thing is for sure, Mboko has gained quite the fan base. And her success at this tournament means she's ensured a spot at the U.S. Open's main draw at the end of the month, a first for her at a Grand Slam. But right now, the finals here in Montreal. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
That's your latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Sam Sampson. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. Coming up on the show, 80 years ago this week, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan, the only time nuclear weapons have been used in warfare. We'll talk about the lessons learned and increasing concerns about the threat of nuclear weapons around the world. Also, more than 10,000 Air Canada flight attendants could go on strike later this month. More on what strike could mean for travelers. But first, the Women's Health Clinic is looking for crafty people who can lend their skills to help those experiencing pregnancy and infant loss. We'll get all the details coming up first on Information Radio. But first, it's time for news headlines with Heather Wells. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, for the past 4 years, Manitoba has been farming out criminal cases to defense lawyers to prosecute because there aren't enough Crown attorneys to handle them all. Since 2021, the province has paid defense lawyers more than $674,000 to prosecute cases. The Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys is fighting a grievance with the government over workload issues. We're going to hear more about that. And a new anti-theft app being used in Winnipeg is providing fresh insight into the life of a stolen bicycle. We'll hear what that insight has uncovered coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Sounds very interesting. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Hello and good morning to Abby Adiemi. How you doing?
Good morning, Chloe. The smoke continues, and along with the hot weather, that's the situation we will be facing across the province today. Air quality warnings are still in effect across central and northern Manitoba. In Dauphin, we should be seeing it today. The smoke is going to be blowing into that region, and we should see it last till tomorrow. While in the northern part of the province, we're still seeing smoke present in Burns River all the way down to Little Grand Rapids, and then in the central part of the province also. We're also tracking the smoke all the way up to Churchill and the York region. The smoke is going to be making it really hard to breathe and reducing visibility even for healthy people. This will be affecting you, and conditions may change quickly and expected to last through Friday. So if you're in these areas and the smoke is impacting you, I'd advise you to spend less time outside. Conditions in Winnipeg and the rest of the Red River Valley region at this time, we're starting off mainly clear. It's already warming up nicely outside. I'm seeing 20 degrees already in the region. The sun also making its appearance already across this region with local smoke hanging in the air. As we move through the day, we'll continue to enjoy some sunshine, and then by the afternoon period, we can expect the clouds to start rolling in, and then those local smoke will be it's going to linger more in the region. We should see a hot and humid day in Winnipeg today. We will see temperatures climb to 29 degrees, Chloe, and the humidity is going to make it feel close to 35 degrees. So there may be a chance of showers and thunderstorms later, but that will not be cooling things down. Similar conditions across the southern regions. We're seeing 11 degrees in some areas and 20 degrees in other parts of the south. Similar conditions. Temperatures will get close to 30 degrees, while up north we're seeing we're already seeing 13 to 17 degrees, and it's going to be warming up to about 27 degrees. Winnipeg right now on 29, and the sun is about to make its appearance.
All right. Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
And Abby Adiemi is someone that Sierra Sanders and I should have listened to a little more carefully yesterday. Following the show yesterday, we went for a walk, not heeding the advice of it's going to rain, and did get caught in a rainstorm.
It did, in fact, rain, and it rained.
It poured.
It poured.
It was actually kind of fun, though.
And nothing like a little bit of adrenaline to wake you up like post-show, because sometimes you can feel
the rain on your skin, you know?
Exactly. Unfortunately, there was no umbrella.
No. Sadly.
Ella.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But that's okay. Hopefully your commute this morning, though, is starting off quite well. It is early in the show, so things are just getting moving. We are just getting the show started. The commute is just getting started. It is quite early, so things are moving smoothly right now. But if that changes and you notice something that's slowing you down, whether you are on a bike, whether you are walking, you are driving, maybe e-scootering, as we've been talking about, you might be seeing them zipping around there on the streets and sidewalks. However you are getting around this morning, and whether you are here in the city or out on the highway, I'd love to know what's getting in your way or what's slowing you down. And you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
The time is 6:15. You're listening to Information Radio. calling all crafty people who would like to lend their talents to provide some community care. The Dragonfly program at the Women's Health Clinic provides support like counseling to people experiencing pregnancy and infant loss. They also put together care packages. Right now, they're looking for crocheted, knitted, or sewn hearts to add to these packages. Erin Boxtail is the program manager for the Dragonfly program and joins us on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell me more about these care packages. Why the hearts?
When we were having a large gathering in Winnipeg, one of the things we were looking to do was to really find ways to tangibly support people, make them feel connected. One of the things that people often say when they're going through a pregnancy loss or the loss of an infant or a baby born to spirit is that they feel very lonely, very isolated, and it's really hard to talk about the experience. So we thought if we could include something like a comfort item, something that's small, that's soft, that fits in someone's hand, that could sort of be just a reminder of the support and the care and the compassion that's out there for you. And they were so popular and people cherished them so much. We have continued to include these in care bundles for the last few years.
So you're calling for more of these hearts. How many are you hoping to get? How many do you need?
So recently we got a grant from the Royal Bank to provide 100 kits around the province. The kits are already out there around the province. So therefore, folks who are experiencing an early a first trimester pregnancy loss, so they contain some medical information as well as some items to sort of self-monitor your symptoms, but also just to humanize it, one of these comfort items. So we're looking for about 1,000 right now to go along with this current drive. We've already received 200. We would estimate that in this province we'd need about 3,000 a year. Everything that we receive, we're going to be sharing around the whole province with our partners who are distributing these kits and providing their own types of pregnancy and infant loss supports to families. So anything that we receive will be sharing with folks in all the health regions as well as at Women's Hospital and St. Boniface Hospital.
What do you hear from the folks who receive these kits about what they mean to them?
You know, I think one of the things we hear is so often it's hard for people to reach out for support. And one of the reasons is because those losses are so painful. It's like people don't want to make others sad. They don't want to make others introduce the idea of a miscarriage into someone else. So I think it's just a reminder that people do care, that there is a lot of compassion out there, that someone took the time out of their life to use their hands, their art, and their creativity to provide something just to comfort someone else who's going through a tough time. And it means a lot. And it's amazing how people say, you know, I keep it in my pocket on a hard day, or I keep it by my bed and I look at it. And it sort of just connects people across ages and experiences. And it's a tangible reminder that, you know, you might feel super isolated, but that there is compassion and love out there for you, that there are people that care, that are willing to hold space for your experiences, to sit in the difficult experiences with you and the difficult feelings, and that, you know, there are people that are going to get it and that are going to understand and be there for you.
Erin, if folks want to support this project, if they knit, what are the options? Earlier I said knit, crochet, sew. How can folks help out?
So we really have been blown away by the amount of creativity people have shown and generosity. So people, anything that folks want to make, any color, any material, what we're looking for is something soft, something that will mostly fit in your hand. But other than that, you know, if it looks right to you, then it'll probably be the right thing for someone else. So we're just asking that folks just, you know, follow their hearts with this to make their hearts, I guess. And they can be dropped off at O'Damon, which used to be called the Birth Center. It's at 603 St. Mary's Road. It can also be mailed. This is not the first time we've done one of these call-outs, and every time we've gotten such amazing community responses from such a range of folks, young people in schools, folks that might have had a historical loss or a loss like up to 50 years ago that then share a letter about their experience with us, or even longer. Sometimes these experiences can stay with people their whole lives. So, we have received that generosity over the years.
Erin, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and I'm looking forward to hearing updates.
Thank you.
Erin Boxtail is the program manager for the Dragonfly program at the Women's Health Clinic. And as she mentioned, if you'd like to donate a heart or two, they can be dropped off at Odamin, formerly known as the Birth Center, at 603 St. Mary's Road.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
Well, if you're flying with Air Canada this month, you might want to keep an eye on the headlines. The airline's flight attendants have voted in favor of a strike mandate. They say wages have not kept up with inflation and workers are forced to do unpaid work. For more on this, we've reached John Graddick. He's a lecturer in supply networks and aviation management at McGill University. Welcome to the show, John.
Good morning, Chloe.
So how likely do you think is it that Air Canada flight attendants will actually go on strike?
Well, wearing my university professor hat, I'll give you numbers. At my thinking is right now we're talking about 50-50. The union is coming to the table tomorrow with a significant support from its workforce, 99.7% support from the 95% of flight attendants who voted. So they're coming with a lot of vim and vigor to the table tomorrow. So we'll have some interesting odds as we go through the next couple of weeks.
So what exactly is the union asking for here?
Two things, really. Primarily wage catch up. They're coming off a 10-year contract that was signed in 2014 through 2025. Wage increases were held at 2% annually. So there's a significant amount of cost of living and a living wage catch up somewhere in the range of about 30 to 34%, which is what I think is going to be the number that they're going to be looking to do. And that's one piece. The other piece is, of course, the big issue that the flight attendants have been promoting over the last 6 or 8 months, which is really the fact that they are asked to do work by Air Canada that they don't necessarily get paid for. So they only get paid when the door closes of the aircraft, and the pay stops when the door opens for the aircraft on arrival.
Let's talk about how this could potentially impact travelers. If a strike does go ahead, what would that look like for folks who are flying with Air Canada?
Well, the last time we had a flight attendant strike, which Air Canada had trained a number of its managers and clerks to work as flight attendants. So Air Canada was able to maintain a core set of flights, probably about 20 to 25% of their flights. This time around, Bill C-58 is now in force, and it's really one bill that kind of limits the ability of companies, federally regulated companies, to use replacement workers, something they like to call anti-scab regulations. So, I'm not sure whether Air Canada is going to test the limits of C-58 by trying to get managers and clerks trained. So if they decide not to train people, you're looking at a complete shutdown of Air Canada services somewhere around the 18th or 19th at the earliest.
Let's say a deal is reached. If attendants do get higher pay, is it likely that ticket prices will go up, or where will Air Canada find this money?
You got to find it which way you can. And it may be cutting other costs. The ticket prices are very much a function of the competition that the carriers are facing in Canada. There is very little correlation between your cost increases and a ticket price increase. The market is really open to competition, and whatever the competition pushes out in the marketplace is what you're going to have to deal with. So it will impact the bottom line. It'll impact profitability, but the airlines have been pretty profitable. the last few months, the last few quarters. So I think that, yes, there will be a hit on the profitability. Shareholders probably take a little bit of a hit, but it's nothing that the airlines are not used to.
Now, John, we reported just last year Air Canada pilots got a 42% raise over 4 years. Do you think that gives Air Canada flight attendants more leverage in their negotiations?
Of course, yeah, it does, because you're looking at not just the Air Canada pilots, but you're also looking at other carriers and other jurisdictions. So whether it's WestJet or Air Transat, or whether it's Porter, or whether it's Delta or American or United, they're getting some pretty interesting bumps in salary, and that the Air Canada flight attendants have been sitting on the back burner, waiting for a chance in this new collective agreement to kind of catch up as well. So yeah, there is going to be some catch up, and it won't be as significant as the pilots. Pilots got 42% or 43% over 4 years. I'm looking somewhere between 30 and 35%, maybe for a 3-year contract, probably at best 4-year contract, but there'll be some catching up.
John, you've had an interesting last couple of years here as a lecturer in aviation management, with all of these changes and strikes and raises for pilots. What do you think all of this that we're talking about here tells us about working conditions in the airline industry today and how they've changed?
They have. I think that we're in a situation right now where everybody wants to make sure that we're getting a living wage. I think we've heard enough stories about flight attendants having to double up or triple up bunking or living and staying in cars because they can't afford rent. I think that the age of airlines lowballing salaries is done. I think that the unions have done a good job of positioning wage demands to get a living wage to people. So the industry is changing. We need more flight attendants for sure. We need more mechanics. We need more pilots. So I think the bumps in wages that we've been getting should make airline businesses and airline careers more attractive. So yeah, there is going to be demand, and it is a good place to work. It's a lot of fun, and people enjoy flying.
John, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure, Chloe. Have a great day.
You
Take care.
too. John Graddick, a lecturer in supply networks and aviation management at McGill University.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes our world. Staying on top of stories around the globe. And connected close to home. It's news you can trust. Delivered when you want and where you want. On Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
On This is Manitoba, we celebrate who we are, and we lean into the challenges here that can make this place even better. I'm Marcy Marcusa, host of This is Manitoba. On the podcast, we tackle one topic in a new episode every Friday. It's always about us, the news, and the people here. Get into some local listening. Find and follow This is Manitoba wherever you get your podcasts.
We are just coming up to 6:30 here on Information Radio. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa, and still ahead. 80 years ago this week, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan, the only times nuclear weapons have been used in warfare. We'll talk about the lessons learned and increasing concerns about the threat of nuclear weapons around the world now. That story is coming up later on Information Radio. And also, as you've been hearing in the news, if you've been a victim of crime, you know how important the role of a Crown attorney is for prosecuting your case. A CBC News investigation has found that the government has been outsourcing more of that work to defense attorneys because of workload issues. The I-Team's Caroline Bargout will be here to talk about that just after 7 o'clock. But first, it's time for your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. It's 6:30. It's a warm start to Thursday. We're clear and 20 right now. We start off with sunshine. We'll see clouds move in, and there is a good chance we may see showers or thunderstorms again later this evening. But for this afternoon, local smoke and a high of 29. Health officials in Manitoba say an Indigenous man endured racism while seeking health care in the final months of his life. Stephen Rockwell's family say hospital staff failed to take his concerns seriously on 3 visits to Thompson's Hospital. His issues were only treated urgently after a chiropractor noticed something odd in Stephen's back. 4 months later, in March of 2024, Stephen died of cancer. His mom, Leona Massan, says her son's health issues were ignored because he was Indigenous.
I was thinking, what if they would have listened to us? What if they would have given him treatment faster?
Northern Health expressed condolences to the family and says it is committed to eliminating Indigenous-specific racism. If you have been a victim of crime, then you know how important the role of a Crown attorney is in prosecuting your case. A CBC News investigation has found the government has been outsourcing more of that work to defense attorneys because of workload issues. CBC I-Team's Caroline Bargut explains.
From 2021 until January of this year, Manitoba Prosecution Services has outsourced dozens of criminal cases to defense lawyers. In the first 2 years, it was only 3 cases a year, but that number grew. 28 cases have been prosecuted by defense lawyers instead of Crown so far in 2025, and the year is not over yet. The province says most are a result of a conflict of interest, but admits workload issues make up a fifth of the cases going to defense lawyers. Michael Desatel is the vice president of the Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys.
The workload is getting heavier and heavier, and the burden is getting heavier and heavier, and we're not gaining as many people as we need to be gaining in the office.
The union is currently fighting a grievance with the government over what it calls dangerously heavy workloads. The government says 8 more crowns were hired last month, but that still leaves about 5 vacancies. Desatel says the province needs to hire more crowns and incentivize them to stay in Manitoba. Caroline Bargut, CBC News, Winnipeg.
About 70 wildfire evacuees from Titasqueat Cree Nation began their long bus ride home from Winnipeg last night. Wildfires forced them out of their community northeast of Thompson at the end of May. Hayden Flett is a firefighter with the First Nation. He was in Winnipeg escorting people on their journey home, and he describes conditions on the fire line as tough.
Kind of hot and kind of bad. Mosquitoes really bite, but our wildfires are pretty down now. We're pretty good to go home, and we're safe.
Flett says his cousin's house was destroyed by wildfire when it swept back into town last month. Officials say at least 7 homes on Titasqueat were lost. The new anti-theft app being used in Winnipeg is providing fresh insight into the life cycle of a stolen bike. The city started using an online bike registry system last year. It's called 529 Garage. Rob Brunt is that company's chief outreach officer. He says data from the app suggests thieves generally don't use chop shops to break down stolen bikes because it's a lot easier and more efficient to sell them whole.
These are organized individuals. They're selling bicycles on Kijiji, Facebook, and making, lots of money at the expense of the cycling community.
529 Garage is touted as a way to make it easier for people to report their bicycles as stolen, putting information in the hands of police, insurance providers, and other users. But Brunt says even people who use this app still need to invest in a sturdy lock. The Kremlin says a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump has been agreed. Today's announcement comes on the eve of a White House deadline for Moscow to show progress towards ending the 3-year-old war in Ukraine. Putin's foreign affairs minister, his foreign affairs advisor, says the summit could possibly take place next week at a venue that has been decided in principle. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Manitoba's last urban cattle auction mart closed its gates this summer. Over the years, the stockyard saw hundreds of thousands of cattle pass through Brandon. The operator, Heartland Livestock Services, announced the shutdown in July. Manitoba Beef Producers President Matthew Atkinson says some producers will need to travel further when they want to sell.
We know it's expensive, whether you're hauling yourself or custom hauling, it's expensive to move those cattle. And so we want to have a long-term relationship with the buyers in the auction mart, as well as minimize our costs in getting those cattle to those locations.
Atkinson says the nearby auction marts can absorb some sales. They'll need to find space for around 500 to 600 cattle a week, and that number will only grow as the industry hits its sales peak this fall. And finally, Canadian tennis player Vicky Mboko winning her semifinal match at the National Bank Open in Montreal last night.
Nothing would have ever prepared me to be in the final. If you would have told me last year that I was going to be in the final here, I would have said you're crazy.
She's 18 and she beat the player from Kazakhstan. Mboko is going to compete now in the final later today against Japan's Naomi Osaka. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Allez, Vicky.
Oh, she's incredible. So much strength, so much, she just doesn't give up.
And the poise, she's in this situation. She said herself she would have thought she was crazy if she would have known that she'd be in this position. And she's just cool, calm, collected. It's amazing.
She's been playing tennis since she was 4.
I don't even know if I knew what a tennis racket was at age 4.
You could barely walk at 4.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so excited for that match. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. I'm Chloe Friesen. You're listening to Information Radio. Abby Adiemi joins us now with a look at your weather forecast. Hello.
Hello, Chloe. It's smoke and heat. That's the main theme across the province today, from hot and hazy conditions in the southern part of the province to smoky. And we're going to see a lot of unsettled conditions in the northern part of the province. We still have air quality statements and warnings in effect across central and northern Manitoba. This morning, we're talking about from Dauphin all the way down to Churchill. We are seeing issues from the smoke really affecting air quality and visibility in those regions, and conditions may change throughout the day. We're looking at air quality health index around 10 plus in some of these areas, which means it poses very high risk to even healthy people. So you need to take care, avoid outdoor activities if you're feeling uncomfortable with the smoke. Now, in the southern part of the province, Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region, 20 degrees right now. It's clear outside. A bit of lingering smoke will hang in the air for most of the day. Sunshine will dominate this morning before some cloud covers will move in by the afternoon period. This local smoke will remain in the air. You will feel it. Along with the humidity, it's going to make the day feel close to 34 degrees today. We get to a high of 29. There's a possibility of thunderstorms moving in later in the evening. And then tomorrow, more cloud cover and some sunshine with showers. In the Pembina Valley region, similar conditions to Winnipeg at this time, 18 degrees. It's also clear there. We're going to see lots of sunshine, and then the clouds will build as you get into the afternoon. Also, smoke will be present in the air in that region. We're looking at highs around 28 degrees, and the humidity also getting close to 35 for that part of the province. Tracking conditions in the Westman region now. Brandon is at 11 degrees. We're seeing misty conditions there, so you might be noticing fog in that part of the province this morning. Some sunshine already making its way towards that region. We have this very good chance of late day showers and storms in the forecast there. Smoke still remains widespread for that region. Highs around 27, but it's going to feel close to 34 degrees with the humidity factored in, and some just light winds from the northwest. Then we track conditions in the Parkland region, where we have warnings in effect for Dauphin all the way down to Russell. We also have misty conditions there. Along with the smoke, you're going to notice smoke and fog in that part of the province. 16 degrees right now. Air quality warnings in place due to smoke from the fires burning in the northern part of the province. The skies will stay mostly sunny first, and then we're going to see clouds build and some showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. The smoke will linger through the day, and we'll see highs around 26, 27 degrees. In the Interlake region, Gimli's at 17 at this time. Smoke also in the air. Mild westerly winds. This region is going to be seeing temperatures around 29 degrees. It's going to feel like 35. Now we go into the northern part of the province. The power Flin Flon, Thompson, Churchill. The power this time is around 16. Flin Flon also around 16 degrees. Air quality warnings present in that part of the province. Thick smoke we're seeing. Visibility reduced in that part of the province. Highs would be around 26 degrees and the humidity around 30, 31. Thompson is at 16, warming up to 23 degrees. There's a slim chance of showers for Thompson this morning. And then further north in Churchill, we're looking at 12 degrees and smoke and a bit windy from the northeast in Churchill this morning. There's a chance of drizzle. You might notice it in that part of the province this morning. Then the skies will clear and a mix of sun and clouds. Temperatures will drop slightly to 10 degrees for folks in Churchill today. So it's more like the southern part of the province will be warm and humid, while the north will be dealing with the smoke today. Winnipeg, we are currently at 20 degrees.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adeyemi. Our show director, Sierra Sanders, joins me now for a look at the commute. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe. As Abby mentioned, that there is some widespread fog in the western part of the province. And I actually got a call from Thomas. He was on Highway 16, and he mentioned that the fog was pretty heavy in the Russell, Fox Warren area there. In both directions, it looked like the fog was pretty heavy. So if you're on Highway 16 there in those areas of Russell and Fox Warren, be aware that there is some heavy fog there that might be affecting your drive, and that there is also some smoke factoring into that fog as well, probably making it a little heavier than usual. So be aware if you're on Highway 16 in the Russell, Fox Warren area of heavy fog. If there's anything else getting in your way, or you see anything such as fog, smoke, or on your drive, let me know. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Sierra.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Sierra Sanders. I'm Chloe Friesen. You're listening to Information Radio. The time is 6:42. It's time now to turn to business news. Crystalie Ramlakan is here with the business report. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Chloe.
So this is interesting. Shopify has regained its position as the most valuable company in Canada. What's behind that result?
Yeah, that's right. And so the e-commerce company reported growth in revenue and profit for the second quarter, and it's projecting continued growth in the coming months. So shares closed up, giving the company a market cap of about $275 billion. And it replaced the former top stock, Royal Bank. So the company beat analyst expectations despite concerns about rising consumer costs, new fees, and, of course, a trade war. So there was also concern that the Trump administration's suspension of de minimis exemptions that allowed products worth less than $800 to enter the U.S. tariff-free could affect Shopify's growth by slowing down shipments. But Shopify's chief financial officer says the company has not seen any drop in demand. Now, some analysts say companies could be, pulling ahead their shipping to try to avoid trade uncertainty. We saw that, when Trump began threatening tariffs. But the company says there was no evidence of that happening. But it did say merchants are increasing their prices. And also during the second quarter, Shopify announced a number of partnerships, including a shopping integration with OpenAI and artificial intelligence, and a new digital currency payment option.
Now, we're going to stay on the topic of tariffs here. President Donald Trump says he will impose a 100% tariff on computer chips entering the U.S. What effect could that have?
Well, it could raise the prices of electronics, cars, appliances, and other products dependent on chips. Seems like almost everything has a computer chip in it these days. And this announcement comes more than 3 months after Trump temporarily exempted most electronics from tariffs. So the president says companies that make computer chips in the U.S., though, will be spared from this import tax, of course. And investors seem to be interpreting that as a positive for Apple and other major tech companies that have been making huge financial commitments to manufacture more chips in the U.S. So big tech has made collective commitments to invest about $1.5 trillion in the U.S. since Trump moved back into the White House. And that includes a $600 billion promise from Apple after it added another $100 billion onto a previous commitment. Now, the question is whether that deal between Apple's CEO Tim Cook and Trump will be enough to insulate, well, the millions of iPhones made in China and India from, the tariffs that they're going to face, and if it will reduce pressure on the company to raise prices on new iPhone models expected to be unveiled next month. Some people were worried that iPhones would become even more expensive with tariffs. And you know what? Right now, it does seem like Wall Street thinks that this is going to be enough. Apple shares have gone up.
And Disney has made yet another deal in the entertainment business. I feel like we were just talking about this, Crystalie.
Yes, we were. So they just made a deal with the NFL, and now Disney's ESPN has made a deal with WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. So they've reached a more than $1.6 billion agreement that will give the sports media company exclusive rights to many of WWE's most high-profile events. So the 5-year deal includes streaming rights to major events, including WrestleMania and SummerSlam. So ESPN will pay $325 million a year for the rights, which is a significant increase from the current deal with Peacock. And the events will be available on ESPN's new streaming service, which is set to debut later this month. They just made that announcement yesterday. And like you were saying, ESPN has been on a deal-making spree ahead of the launch. Earlier this week, it announced a deal with the NFL. And there are also reports ESPN is in talks with Major League Baseball about a rights package.
Well, if that does happen, I know you will be here to bring us that news, Crystalie. What's happening in the markets so far this morning?
In Europe, stocks are mostly higher. Germany is up. The UK is down, though, right now. France is up. In Asia, markets are mostly in the green. Japan is up. Shanghai is up. Hong Kong is up. Oil is up 27 cents to $64.62 U.S. per barrel. Gold is up $13.20 to $3,381.40 U.S. per ounce. And the dollar is up 0.06 of a cent to 72.8 cents U.S.
Thanks, Crystalie.
Okay, thanks, Chloe.
That was Crystalie Ramlakan with the business news. Well, some of us recently had an extra day off work on Monday, and it's those long weekends and holidays that are something that people really look forward to. But what if it was a permanent thing? If there's been more conversation around 4-day work weeks in recent years, and some workplaces in Canada have made the move to that model. To find out what people think about that, the CBC's Andrew Lamb hit the streets of Halifax.
So what do you think about the idea of a 4-day work week?
I mean, it's great. It's a lot better than a 5-day work week.
I think it's wonderful. It takes a lot of load off of people. They seem to be happier on those 4-day weeks that come up sporadically through the year. Like, for example, this week we had Natal Day. A lot of people are more joyous. They're getting out, and there seems to be more of a calmness when they got that extra day off, as much as it is only one day.
I don't think it would really work rather well. Employers are getting less for the same amount.
Do you think it could have benefits in terms of employees and their productivity?
Yeah, I mean, I would think on some folks it would help, but, a lot of people are paid by the hour, so, that's not really going to change that.
Sounds amazing. I know that it's been tested in many either countries or cities, and it's proven just great results. And I think when you have more time for your personal life, you enjoy your work more, you do it better, and the balance of both is just better for all, employees and employers. So
we work 12-hour shifts 3 days out of the week, or 4 days if we pick up an extra shift.
Frankly, I prefer it.
Yeah.
I have small kids. I feel like I have more time with them. So honestly, it's a good thing. Granted, though, 12 hours to 16 hours a day, but at the same time, I get more time with them. And I would have killed for my parents to have something very similar when I was growing up. I was pretty much with my grandparents all the time. So
How important is that time with your family?
it's very important. Oh my God, your kids grow up so quickly. I always hear it from my parents. My mother is always like, my baby's having babies, and she really didn't get that much time with me. I feel like I really didn't get to see my mom throughout the week because she was working 7 days out of the week and 12 hours because at the time they owned their own business. So it's very important.
If you had that extra day off every week, what do you think that could do for your life?
Well, I like that idea because you still have an opportunity to go to doctor's appointments and things like that.
Well, it would give me the time to actually go and get groceries and actually go to the gym.
Probably go shopping for food, do more yoga, meditation, more music.
I work 3 days a week, but as a choice to work part-time. I was working 5 days a week for many months at my job, and I asked to reduce to 3 days, and it feels better to come back home and know I have more time to just do my own outings, activities. It makes me work better than when I was working 5 days a week and I was tired and a bit sleepy during my work time and just wasn't as, not just efficient, but just not as focused.
I think it would allow me to take a little bit more control of my life in a weird way, where I might be able to pursue some things that I haven't thought about in a while, just due to the fact, you're working 5 days a week, you need a couple days off. I think it would allow me to pursue my creative passions a little bit more and take care of myself a little bit more.
That's the CBC's Andrew Lamb talking to folks in Halifax about 4-day work weeks. We want to hear your thoughts on this. You can call our listener line. The number is 204-788-3666. Just kidding. That's the up to speed number. Call us 204-788-3205. That's 204-788-3205. Would you shift to a 4-day work week if it was an option? Or maybe you already work a 4-day work week. Tell us about it. 204-788-3205. We will play your thoughts later on the show. The time is 6:51. You are listening to Information Radio. This week, the world marks the 80th anniversary of the U.S. dropping 2 atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They were the first use of nuclear weapons in warfare. More than 200,000 people are estimated to have died as a direct result of the bombings, while thousands more died and suffered from the long-term health effects of radiation in the following months and years. To date, they remain the only use of nuclear weapons in war. But now survivors and experts are warning about the increasing threat of nuclear arms around the world. For more on this story, we've reached Yui Fujiki. She's a research assistant with Project Plowshares, an organization focused on peace and disarmament. We've reached her in Vancouver. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi.
So when we think about the events that happened 80 years ago in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, 80th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I am struck not only by the historical gravity of those events, but by their enduring relevance to the moral and more existential questions we face today. August 6th and 9th, 1945 were not merely dates that marked the end of World War II, but they are the inflections, points in human histories. I see today introduced the world to the devastating power of nuclear weapons and redefined the boundaries of warfare and forced us to confront the ethical consequences of scientific advancement. I think 80 decades later now, the legacy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki remains a challenge to our institutions and our visions for the future. Thinking about the survivors known as Hibakusha endured an unimaginable suffering, physically and psychological trauma as well. So their testimonies are not only historical records right now, but they are more indictments of the logic that justify the use of nuclear weapons against civilians.
Now, the average age of registered survivors of both attacks is currently 86, many of them expressing concern about the growing nuclear threat. How would you describe the current state of nuclear weapons around the globe?
Yeah, today, the nine nuclear armed states collectively possesses more than 12,500 nuclear weapons, which is equivalent to the 145,000 of Hiroshima bombs. And of these, nearly 39,000 are deployed with operational forces, and around 2,000 are kept on high alert, which means it's ready to launch within minutes. And although these states have agreed to global disarmament commitments, they are not reducing but modernizing and expanding their nuclear forces. And on top of that, there is some issues because of developed technology, cybersecurity issues on top of that as well. I think these are really concerning moments that we are living in right now.
Right.
Yeah.
We've seen that new technology and increase in technology and cyber capabilities. How concerned are you then that the lessons from Hiroshima and Nagasaki will be forgotten as it's 80 years? Do you think people are still thinking about the event and how it relates to the world today?
I think it's some people will think about what happened back then, 1945. But also maybe it's because, as you mentioned, considering the Hibakusha's average age is 85 plus, so it's getting difficult to hear the more survivors' voices nowadays, and we especially youth generations, has a responsibility and opportunity to spread their voice on their behalf in years to come. Yeah.
Yui, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Yui Fujiki is a research assistant with Project Plowshares. It's an organization focused on peace and disarmament. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. It's time now for news headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, health officials in Manitoba say an Indigenous man endured racism while seeking health care in the final months of his life. Stephen Rockwell's family say hospital staff failed to take his concerns seriously on 3 visits to Thompson's Hospital. His issues were only treated urgently after a chiropractor noticed something odd in his back. For the past 4 years, Manitoba's been farming out criminal cases to defense lawyers to prosecute because there aren't enough Crown attorneys to handle them all. Since 2021, the province has paid defense lawyers more than $674,000 to prosecute cases. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
And Caroline Bargout, who did that story, is actually going to join us here on Information Radio as well.
Yes.
Lovely. Kate,
Look forward to that.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Heather.
Thank
That is CBC's Heather Wells. I'm Chloe Friesen. You're listening to Information Radio. Air quality warning in effect for central and northern Manitoba. So this includes Barons River, Little Grand Rapids, Blood Vein, Poplar River. So much of central and northern Manitoba here dealing with that poor air quality. So make sure you are limiting the time that you are spending outdoors and limiting the exercise or activity in those areas. Still to come on the show, this is an interesting one. It seems divorce is enough to spoil anyone's appetite, even a wolf's. We're going to learn more about the unusual way ranchers down south are protecting their cattle from predators and whether 2 Manitoba ranchers think it would work for their herds. Really, you want to stay tuned for this story. It's fascinating, and we're going to learn more about this really interesting way that ranchers are trying to deter wolves from their livestock. As well, as you've been hearing in the news, health officials in Manitoba admit that an Indigenous man endured racism while seeking health care in the final months of his life. CBC's Ian Fraze will be here to talk about that story and what the man's family is now saying. Those stories and more still to come here on Information Radio. World Report is next.
Today on The Current.
I'm Sean Henry. Canada and Mexico this week are lining up future trade deals without the United States, bypassing their now less dependable partner. But Mexico and Canada have taken different tracks with Trump.
Canada and Mexico are really studying contrasts in their approach to this trade war.
A look at Mexico's approach to the U.S. coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Sam Sampson. U.S. President Donald Trump's latest tariffs are hitting dozens of countries today. U.S. consumers will pay 15% more for goods from the EU, Japan, and South Korea, 20% for Taiwan, Vietnam, and Bangladesh, and 40% for Laos and Myanmar. Hardest hit, though, is India. A 25% tariff kicks in today, followed by another 25% tariff later this month. As Neha Punya tells us, that is the highest of any U.S. trading partner.
Right now, they're paying a 50% tariff. Okay.
Hours after President Donald Trump raised total levies on New Delhi to 50%, accusing India of fueling Russia's war machine by buying cheap energy from Moscow, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi responded.
I know that I will have to pay a huge price for this personally, but I am ready. India is ready, for the sake of the country's farmers.
In his first comments, Narendra Modi seemed to suggest that tariff threats will not force India to concede more ground to the US in ongoing trade talks. The US has been pushing India to allow the import of American agricultural goods, a sector that employs more than half of India's workforce. On Russian oil imports, New Delhi says it is buying the cheapest oil available to secure the energy needs for 1.4 billion people. Industry experts say the additional 25% tariff, which will go into effect in 3 weeks, will deal a body blow to labor-intensive industries. Sanjay Jain is the head of a national textiles committee, a sector that will be the hardest hit.
Very, very difficult situation for India. All new orders will not come. Old orders will all have to be shipped at significant losses.
Some trade bodies are calling on India to hit back with higher tariffs on US imports, even as opposition parties have called America's move economic blackmail. Neha Punya for CBC News, New Delhi.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford says he's worried more Canadian goods could be slapped with tariffs if Trump opens up the CUSMA free trade agreement ahead of schedule.
I'm praying that everything's going to go fine. But if it doesn't, I got to ask the people, do you trust President Trump? I don't.
The 35% tariffs that hit Canada last week only affect goods that are not covered by CUSMA. That pact is scheduled for review next year, but Ford says he does not believe Trump will wait that long. Ukrainians say they are eager for the Russian invasion to end, but they will not accept a bad deal in the name of peace. A ceasefire by Donald Trump's deadline tomorrow is looking beyond reach. Crystal Gamansing is tracking diplomatic efforts.
If the demand is for the Ukrainians to surrender, they won't do it.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine William B. Taylor says he wants to see the war end, but says demands from the two sides are incompatible.
No NATO, no support from the West, limits on armaments, and the Ukrainians, on the other hand, are demanding, such as they can, sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Russia continues to chew away at that territorial integrity. It seized roughly 600 square kilometers in July, the biggest land grab of the year. Shashank Joshi is the defense editor of The Economist.
It's a big country, it's a big front, but it's way up from last year. And that's for many reasons, one of them being that Russia has been refining its tactics.
A Gallup poll of roughly 1,000 Ukrainians over the age of 15 conducted in July found respondents are eager for the war to end. 1/4 expect the guns to fall silent within the year. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff met with the Russian president Wednesday, his 5th visit to Moscow. President Donald Trump, as he has after past meetings between the two countries, expressed optimism.
There's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
Whether that bilateral meeting will progress to a trilateral gathering with Ukraine is still unknown. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
NATO is known for its sophisticated military technology, but now many in the defense community are asking, is it worth it? As Canada prepares to spend billions more on defense, it has to decide, should it focus on high-tech, high-cost weapon systems or cheaper disposable technology? The CBC's Murray Brewster shares what the experts are saying.
This is what the battlefield of the future sounds like. Garage-built Ukrainian drones taking out a modern multi-million-dollar Russian T-90 tank. It's sounds and images like these that have reignited the argument in the defense community over quantity versus quality.
This is a long-running debate.
Andrew Rasulius is a former Canadian Defense Department arms control expert. NATO nations, including Canada, are trying to figure out these days where to put their money. Another $9.3 billion going into this country's defense budget this year, and billions upon billions more promised for the future. All of it for badly needed new equipment. A new report by the UK-based Chatham House says sanctions are forcing Russia to produce less sophisticated military hardware. NATO has always had the technological edge over Russia, and Rasulia says going forward, in deciding between quantity versus quality, governments like Canada are going to have to look not at defense spending targets like the 2% or even the 5% of GDP, but at what makes sense militarily to deter Russia and potentially its allies.
I think what's important is the ability of one side to deter and defend, if necessary, against the other side.
This debate is no longer restricted to Europe. Ukrainian intelligence has warned Russia is training North Korean workers to mass-produce Shahed drones, something bound to increase tensions in the Pacific. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Amazon says it's planning to challenge a decision from BC's Labour Relations Board again, part of the company's ongoing effort to block its employees from unionizing.
They pulled out all the stops to try to stop the union. That didn't work. We're going to stand with Amazon workers here and across the country.
That is Unifor's Western Director, Gavin McGarrigle, reacting after the Labour Relations Board rejected Amazon's latest appeal this week. It found Amazon had deliberately ramped up hiring and padded its employee list so it could argue the union did not meet the threshold for certification. Amazon says the decision is wrong on the facts and the law. Métis leaders are getting their chance to weigh in on the Building Canada Act. Prime Minister Mark Carney has already heard from Inuit and First Nations leaders about Bill C-5. The legislation was rushed through Parliament before summer and allows Ottawa to fast-track nationally important projects. Today, he's holding a summit to hear from Métis leaders. Megan Fitzpatrick is in our parliamentary bureau. Megan, how do you expect talks to go today?
Well, Bill C-5 has faced criticism from some Indigenous leaders who said the bill should not have been rushed through Parliament, and some have expressed concerns about the law infringing on their rights. 9 First Nations in Ontario have launched legal challenges to the law and to a similar law at the provincial level. Today is an opportunity for Métis leaders to express their concerns, if they have any, but it's not clear which groups will actually be attending today. We've heard about who's not attending. The Manitoba Métis Federation is not going because they are opposed to the Métis Nation of Ontario and the Métis National Council being invited to this meeting. The Manitoba Métis Federation considers the Ontario group a fraudulent organization, and they say they can't share a table with them. And they believe the Métis National Council is not a legitimate body, they say. So the Manitoba group says the inclusion of the other groups will undermine the integrity of the summit, so they're choosing not to go. The Métis Nation of Ontario told CBC they're here in Ottawa to discuss their concerns about C-5 and that disputes among the groups shouldn't distract from the purpose of the meeting. And then there's some other groups that were invited to today's meeting as observers, and they feel they should be directly at the table. One leader who is attending told CBC today is a chance to ensure Métis voices are heard and to talk about economic growth, environmental protection, and Indigenous rights. So we'll see how it goes today. When the meeting does get underway, we will hear some opening remarks from Prime Minister Mark Carney, and then the rest of the meeting is closed to the media. We'll be watching for any reaction afterwards.
Megan Fitzpatrick in Ottawa, thank you.
You're welcome.
She's heading to the final. Rising Canadian tennis star Victoria Mboko will play tonight in the women's final at the Canadian Open in Montreal. She'll be facing 4-time Grand Slam champ Naomi Osaka, and Mboko says she's up for the challenge.
I know she's really powerful too. I'm just prepared for anything, to be honest. I'm sure the finals is going to be probably one of the most difficult matches you have to play.
Mboko is currently ranked 85th in the world, but after this tournament, she'll jump to at least number 34. That's your national and international news from World Report. I'm Sam Sampson. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Coming up on the show, from the big screen to the pasture, down south, the American government has been blasting cattle ranches with the explosive argument scene from the movie Marriage Story. But is this unorthodox method the key to fixing what some local farmers have called an out-of-control wolf population? Two Manitoba ranchers will weigh in. Also, health officials in Manitoba admit that an Indigenous man endured racism while seeking health care in the final months of his life. CBC's Ian Fraze will be here to talk about that story. But first, when a Crown prosecutor has a conflict of interest, the province hires a defense lawyer to take on the case. But the province is now also using defense lawyers to help ease workload on Crowns. The I-Team's Caroline Bargout will join us coming up. But first, we head to CBC's Heather Wells with news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a new anti-theft app being used in Winnipeg is providing some fresh insight into the life cycle of a stolen bicycle. The city began using an online bike registry system last year called 529 Garage. Rob Brunt with that company says data from the app suggests thieves generally don't use chop shops to break down stolen bikes because it's a lot easier and more efficient to sell them whole. Some of the last wildfire evacuees from Tatasqueyak Cree Nation started their journey home last night. Nearly 70 people boarded a bus in Winnipeg, bound for the First Nation northeast of Thompson. They have been away from home since May. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
Some very good news there. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That is ABC's Heather Wells. I'm Chloe Friesen. Let's say hello to the team. Sierra Sanders, show director. Ezek Abdelatif is our YouTube live stream producer today. Abby Adiemi, keeping an eye on the weather forecast. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe. I think we're in for like another active evening similar to yesterday across the southern part of the province. I'm seeing that system build and it may be stirring up some thunderstorms. It will be bringing potential, strong winds and heavy rainfall later in some areas of the southern region. But the big story today is the heat in the south and the thick smoke in the northern part of the province. This is impacting from Dauphin all the way down to Churchill and the York region. Visibility is poor. Breathing will be affected. If it impacts you, please spend less time outside. The smoke will be sticking around for most of the day, even into the weekend. Winnipeg right now, 19, mainly sunny outside, I would say, with smoke still in the air. We start with that sunshine we're seeing outside already, but some cloudy conditions will build as we get into the afternoon. And then we'll see temperatures getting hot and hazy. We'll see temperatures climb to 29 degrees, but it's going to feel in the range of the 34, 35. The winds will stay light from the south, and then some cloudy conditions. And that showers and thunderstorms I talked about will be coming late in the evening across the southern region from the Pembina Valley region all the way down to the Interlake region. It's a warm start. Temperatures hovering between 18 and 20 degrees now. Smoke and mist in the air, especially in the Dauphin area. We still have that foggy conditions there, but the sunshine will give way to clouds later in the day, and there's a good chance of showers and storms in the southern part of the province. Up north, we're seeing 12 to 16 degrees, and smoke is a major concern in that part of the province. Long range, I'm seeing 27 into the weekends. But right now, Winnipeg, 19 and sunny outside.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adiemi. Turning now to Sierra Sanders with a look at the commute. Sierra, we were seeing some fog causing some visibility issues on highways, I believe.
Yes, Highway 16 out by Russell, Fox Warren area there on Highway 16. Yeah, there was some, we got a call about some fog there. I don't know what it looks like now, as we know how fog can kind of dissipate as the morning moves on. So I don't know what it's looking looking like out there, but if you're listening and you're on Highway 16, I'd love, of course, safely, I'd love a call from you to find out what the conditions are like out there. I'm sure Abby would appreciate a little insight as well into that. But I also got a call from Julie. She mentioned that there was some there was a police presence at Mountain and Salter. It looked like there were a couple of police cars that were attending to a situation. I don't know exactly what that situation was, but she said that it looked like it was kind of happening in all directions. So there were some police cars in the area of Mountain and Salter. So things might be slow in that area. And if you are passing those emergency vehicles or those police cars there, make sure you're proceeding with caution and you're passing carefully there so they can do their work and you can get where you need to be safely and as soon as you can. So that's Mountain and Salter. Got a call from Julie. She mentioned that there was some police presence there that might cause a little bit of slowdowns. If you see anything else out there that might be getting in your way, no matter how you're getting around this morning or whether you are here in Winnipeg or out there on the highways, I'd love to hear about it. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
The time is 7:15. You're listening to Information Radio. When a Crown prosecutor has a conflict of interest, a defense lawyer is often hired to prosecute the case. But the province is now using them to help ease the workload on Crown attorneys, which the union says is akin to privatizing the practice. The I-Team's Caroline Bargout is here to talk about that. Welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning.
So what exactly is happening here?
So in a case where there's a conflict of interest, Manitoba Prosecution Services will call on a group of defense lawyers to help prosecute those cases. For example, a conflict would be if a Crown attorney is a witness or a victim of crime or one of their staff members is. But back in 2021, Manitoba also started using defense lawyers to ease some of the workload issues on Crowns. Now, Michelle Jules is the executive director of Manitoba Prosecution Services. She says a total of 78 cases have been farmed out since January of 2021 to January of this year. But the vast majority of them are for conflict. She says only a fifth of those cases, 14, were for workload issues.
It's been a handful of a year that's been sent out due to workload. The rest are going to have been because of a conflict or a perception of conflict. It's been almost nothing.
You know, the numbers actually show a drastic rise in cases that have been outsourced from Manitoba Prosecution Services. In 2021 and 2022, only 3 cases were farmed out each of those years. But in 2023, that jumps up to 17. Now, last year, 27 cases were outsourced, but so far this year, 28 cases have gone out. Now, the province wouldn't give us details about what these conflicts are, they said, for privacy reasons. So it's really hard for us to understand how so many more conflicts are happening these days. Now, the cost to the province has been more than $674,000.
So how is it decided which cases will go to a Crown attorney and which cases will be prosecuted by a defense lawyer?
It's actually Manitoba Prosecution Services that will decide that. Now, Michelle Jules, she's the executive director. She says mostly cases involving fraud would go out because of workload issues. But we got a list of all the cases that were sent out from the province, and they showed a lot more cases. We saw assault cases, weapons possessions, theft, even arson. Now, Jules says, for example, a child abuse case or a sex abuse case would not go out for workload issues, but they do go out for conflict of interest cases. Now, Senior Crown Attorney and Vice President of the Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys, Michael Desatel, says no cases should be handled by defense lawyers, even cases with conflicts of interest.
None of it should go to the private bar. If we're going to have outside counsel doing work, it should be people who are prosecutors, who understand those policies, who understand the law, who have expertise in presenting these cases, and have the background and knowledge to do them effectively.
Are victims being told that their cases are assigned to defense lawyers to prosecute?
So that's a good question. And the answer is not clear at all. We asked Michelle Jules, and she says that would actually be the responsibility of the defense lawyer that's acting as a Crown to notify the victim or the complainant. She says her office doesn't reach out to them and tell them anything, that they leave that up to the defense lawyers. Now, we listened to a number of cases in court, and at no point did we hear it being disclosed to a judge or any of the participants. I even went to a trial and I didn't hear it being disclosed. Now, does this happen behind closed doors? Maybe. but there's nothing in the policies that says that it has to be disclosed. Now, I talked to a defense lawyer who says when he's defending clients against a Crown who's actually a defense lawyer, sometimes he'll ask what the conflict is, but he says it's often not mentioned in court. Brandon Trask is an assistant law professor at the University of Manitoba. Now, he says victims should be told why their cases are not being handled by expert Crowns and instead are being prosecuted by a defense lawyer.
And this is where it's really important for the public and especially for the victim or the complainant to be able to see, well, this is why this decision was made to assign this particular person to my case, right? And I think as long as that explanation is provided, which apparently it's not being provided right now, but if it is, I think that can go a long way to sort of getting that person on side. But
what are we hearing from the Justice Minister on this?
So Manitoba's Justice Minister, Matt Wiebe, says that no cases have been outsourced for workload issues. He claims a few were sent out of the office for, quote, logistical reasons like maternity leaves, even though Manitoba Prosecution Services has told us that they have outsourced cases for workload issues. Now, Michael Desatel, who is with the Crown Attorneys Association, which is also known as MACA, he says the province doesn't want to admit that there's a workload issue because the union had actually filed a grievance with the government citing dangerously heavy caseloads.
Is the outsourcing of work from prosecutions is artificially deflating workloads in our office. And that's important because at the end of the day, that artificial deflation is directly in contrast, I would say, to the position the government's taken with MACA, which is there isn't a workload problem. Well, there clearly is a workload problem, because if there wasn't a workload problem, you wouldn't be outsourcing or prosecutions out of the department.
So Desatel says that the province needs to hire more Crown attorneys, but he says they also need to incentivize them to stay in Manitoba because that's been a challenge. Other provinces pay a lot more. So oftentimes Crowns will come here, get their experience, and then go somewhere else and make a lot more money. He says 20 Crowns were hired last year, but 15 others left the office. The government says it has filled 8 positions since July, but there are still about 5 more vacancies. Now, the union's grievance will appear before an arbitrator in October.
Thank you for bringing us this story this morning, Caroline.
Thank you.
Caroline Bargout is a reporter with CBC Manitoba's I-Team. She will have more on this story tonight on the CBC News at 6. You can also read about it on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. If you have a tip for the I-Team, you can call our confidential tip line at 204-788-3744 or email iteam@cbc.ca.
As wildfires impact our province, keep up to date with CBC. For the latest information, listen to CBC Radio 1. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba or the CBC News app. For people who have a limited data plan or are running into spotty mobile service on the road, visit cbc.ca/lite. That's cbc.ca/LITE.
Well, we are coming up to sports news shortly here on the show. But first, Sierra Sanders is back in the studio. Traffic has been picking up out there.
Yes, it has. I got a call from Igor and Julie again about a situation just outside the the former Hudson Bay building, I should say. So kind of the corner of Portage and Memorial Boulevard there. So northbound Memorial, just before it turns into Colony Street, actually, once you get past Portage there. There are emergency vehicles on the scene there. It sounded like there was police cars, there was first responders as well who were attending to something there. I don't know the entire details of the situation that's going on there, but it sounds like a lot of emergency vehicles are on the scene there, just outside the former Hudson's Bay building on northbound Memorial, just before it turns into Colony Street. So move with caution there. It sounded like they were in the right lane, so make sure you want to move over to the left. Proceed with caution if they are dealing with a situation there. But if you have any updates in that situation, or you kind of are getting a sense of what's going on there, I'd love to hear about that. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Thank you, Sierra.
Thank you.
Before you leave here, I want to ask you, have you seen the movie Marriage Story?
I have.
It's got Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson, I believe.
ScarJo,
of course. There's an iconic fight scene. What do you know about that?
What I know is that I can do a pretty good impression.
I've never seen it before.
Okay, well maybe I feel like this is your sign that you should see it now.
I think I need to see it, and we're talking about this because I think it's from 2019. It's an older movie here, but there's news out of the States that ranchers have been using this scene specifically to scare away wolves from livestock.
I mean, Adam Driver does sound very angry
right?
in that scene. I have to give it to them. Superb acting. It is just the raw emotion that comes from the scene is insane.
Right. So if you were walking around a farm and you heard Adam Driver just yelling, you'd probably leave, right?
I'd run for the hills.
Okay, exactly. So we're going to see if this is, number one, working in the U.S. And we're also going to hear from some local ranchers about what their thoughts are on this unique way of trying to prevent wolves.
I'm actually really looking forward to it because I want to hear maybe they have another tactic that they use as well to keep the predators away from their livestock. So I'm really interested.
Yeah, very unexpected method, but looking forward to that. Thank you, Sierra.
Thank you, Chloe.
That is CBC's Sierra Sanders. It's time now, I believe, for sports news with Paul McGowan. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe.
Ale Vicky.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Victoria Mboko. Yeah, no secret at this point in the morning. She is through to the final of the National Bank Open, and it was a great match, a 3-set marathon against Elena Rybakina that went to a 3rd-set tiebreak.
It's Mboko's night in Montreal. What a journey this has been. She's through to her first WTA final in an absolute epic.
Epic is a good word to describe what we saw last night. The match started with Rybakina overpowering Mboko. She won the first set 6-1, and then Mboko settled in. There was a great moment in the second set, where she won a long rally and brought the crowd in Montreal to its feet. She was all over the court last night. She was getting to balls that she had no business getting to, and it ends with a shot at the title.
I actually didn't really think of it until now. So, of course, I have the opportunity to lift that beautiful trophy, but, I still have one match to go, and I'm always kind of focused on the present moment. I don't really focus on the end, but it's obviously a vision I would like to see, and that's what I'm playing for, so...
It's a great matchup tonight. Mboko goes up against 4-time Grand Slam winner Naomi Osaka. And Osaka is a person that Mboko grew up idolizing as she was learning to play tennis. So there's another layer to what promises to be a great afternoon of tennis, a 3 p.m. start from Montreal.
What a situation to have to go up against, I guess your, celebrity inspiration in the sport that you play in the finals?
Well, and Osaka is only 27, and so she was saying, it's a great honor. She said, I always wanted to play against somebody who grew up idolizing me, but then she said, I didn't think it would happen this fast.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm so excited for that game. Thank you, Paul. Yeah. We're going to talk Blue Jays now. They set an MLB record in their sweep of the Rockies.
And to recap the series before yesterday, it was 15-1 Jays, then 10-4 Jays. They win yesterday 20-1. Now, the caveat there is that 8 of those runs did come in the 9th inning when the Rockies wove the white flag, brought in catcher Austin Nola to pitch. But over 3 days, the Blue Jays put up 63 hits. That is a major league record for a 3-game series. Despite all the good, manager John Schneider was asked if there was anything his team could have done better.
We could have made a couple plays. Defense is kind of not up to our standards. I'm joking. Whenever you get a franchise record in hits, runs, that's what you look back on. That, in part, with holding a team in this environment to, I think, 6 runs over 3 games, is also really impressive. But you can't ignore what the offense did. I thought they handled the day and the series really, really well. It was fun to watch.
That sweep of the Rockies comes at a great time because the Jays have a tough stretch coming up, including 3 against the Dodgers beginning tomorrow night. And the Winnipeg Goldeyes back in the win column after they downed the Sioux Falls Canaries 4-0. Center fielder Jacob Robson leading the way offensively with a home run, 3 RBI. The Goldeyes, now just 11 games back of a playoff spot, can get the series win tonight, 7:05 first pitch.
All right, let's end on soccer. One of the best players in the world has decided to play in Canada.
Thomas Muller of Germany is coming to the Vancouver Whitecaps. It's a huge deal. He's a World Cup champion, had a legendary career with Bayern Munich. It's probably the biggest ever signing by a Canadian soccer club. And Muller actually played with a former Whitecap at Bayern Munich, Canada's Alphonso Davies.
Dr. Alfonso, he told me a lot of good things about the city and about the Whitecaps. So I was a little bit pumped, but the decision was made before or in between. So I didn't need Alfonso's opinion, but it was important for me just to double check.
Muller arrives in Vancouver next Wednesday and will suit up soon after that as the Whitecaps fight for top spot in the West.
Well, thank you, Alphonso Davies.
Yeah, thank you for that vouch for the city of Vancouver.
And thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chloe.
That is Paul McGowan with CBC Sports. Still to come, we're talking wolves, Hollywood, and cows, I guess. That story is coming up shortly here on Information Radio. Stay tuned for that. Your CBC News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it already feels warm. It's 19 degrees right now. Sunshine gets us going. Increasing clouds this afternoon. And again, local smoke back in the forecast today. A high of 29. The humidex 34. Health officials admit an Indigenous man faced racism while seeking treatment for cancer. The family of Stephen Rockwell received that information last month from the Northern Regional Health Authority. Stephen died last year. His family says healthcare staff in Thompson failed to take his health concerns seriously. And it was only until a chiropractor asked for a CT scan that hospital staff agreed. That scan showed Rockwell's cancer had returned with a vengeance. He died 4 months later, in March of 2024. Stacy Rockwell says what happened to her brother is heartbreaking.
He went somewhere where they were supposed to help him and they didn't give him help and they let him suffer. That's wrong. It's wrong on so many so many levels.
Northern Health has expressed condolences to the family and says it remains committed to eliminating all forms of Indigenous-specific racism. You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. For the past 4 years, Manitoba has been farming out criminal cases to defense lawyers to prosecute because there aren't enough Crown attorneys to handle them all. Cases have always been outsourced when there is a conflict of interest. For example, if a Crown was a victim of a crime or a witness. But this is new. Since 2021, the province has paid defense lawyers more than $674,000 to prosecute cases. Michael Deshotel is the vice president of the Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys.
You don't send out work if you have enough prosecutors to do the work.
The union is fighting a grievance with the government over workload issues. Deshotel says the province needs to hire more Crowns and offer incentives to stay in Manitoba, which has been a challenge because other provinces pay more. The province of Manitoba says it hired 8 Crowns last month, which still leaves about 5 vacancies. Some of the last wildfire evacuees from Titasqueat Cree Nation started their journey home last night. Nearly 70 people boarded a bus in Winnipeg, bound for the First Nation northeast of Thompson. Since her community was first evacuated at the end of May, Crystal Flett has bounced around between hotels in Brandon, Gillam, and Winnipeg. Getting on the bus for home last night, she looks forward to seeing her grandchildren.
My grandkids been in Thompson and Gillam. We're separated at long 2 months. I'm feeling very happy. I'm very glad to be going home.
Flett says she feels for those whose homes were destroyed by wildfires. Officials say at least 7 homes in Titasqueat were lost. A new anti-theft app being used in Winnipeg is providing fresh insight into what happens to your bicycle after it's stolen. The city began using an online bike registry system last year called 529 Garage. That app makes it easier for people to report their bikes as stolen, making the information accessible to police, insurance providers, and other users. Rob Brunt is the Chief Outreach Officer at 529 Garage. He says data from the app shows thieves are very seldom dismantling the bikes they steal.
I used to think, a bike got stolen, it got on the street, and within 2 weeks it would be chopped up and that. And generally what we've seen now with using the app is that's not the case. These chop shops are about 1%.
Brunt says even people who use the app still need to invest in a sturdy lock. Manitoba's last urban cattle auction has closed its gates, marking the end of an era for this province's beef industry. Heartland Livestock Services in Brandon shut down the stockyards in July. Rick Wright at the Livestock Markets Association of Canada says there has been a structural shift in the industry. The consolidation of herds, unpredictable costs, and aging producers are reshaping how cattle are raised and sold.
It used to be at one time the place to sell cattle. At one time they were selling 100,000 cattle a year there, and it wasn't that many years ago. And it was the crown jewel of the marketing system in Manitoba. So, it's unfortunate that, it has to close, but, it would be a business decision.
Wright says the closure is part of a bigger problem. The number of cattle in Canada is at its lowest point since the 1980s. That means auction marts are fighting for customers. Well, the alerts were sounding on cell phones right across southern Manitoba yesterday, but did a tornado actually touch down? Robin Dick is a meteorologist at Environment and Climate Change Canada.
We had no confirmation of any tornado as of yet. But we did have a handful of severe reports of hail. So Steinbach received quarter to loonie-size hail. Stonewall reported quarters. St. Andrews reported loonie to golf ball size hail, and Gunton reported some dimes with up to golf ball size hail.
And there was rain. The highest amounts fell in Stonewall and Selkirk with about 30 millimeters measured. And while a tornado was not confirmed yesterday, Environment Canada and the Northern Tornado Project are looking into a possible tornado near Bellevue, just south of Verdun, on Tuesday. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Abby Adiemi joins us now for a look at your weather forecast. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe. Smoky Thursday across the province, from humid conditions down south to hazy and widespread smoke in the northern part of the province. Hence, the air quality warnings still remains in effect for central and all of northern Manitoba this morning. We're talking about from Dauphin all the way down to Churchill and the York region. We're seeing thick smoke making the air really unhealthy to breathe and reducing visibilities in a lot of these areas. So it will be impacting your breathing if you spend too much time outside. So the advice, if it's affecting you, try to limit how much time you spend outside. Conditions won't be improving into the weekend, just a heads up. For the Red River Valley region at this time, 19 degrees in Winnipeg. It's sunny outside. Light breeze out of the west, heading towards the northwest at this point. The smoke will linger in the air. We're looking at humid conditions building. We're heading for a hot high of 29 degrees today. With the humidity factored in, it's going to feel close to 35. The skies will turn cloudy by the afternoon period, and then this local smoke will continue into the evening. And tonight we might even see, a chance of showers and thunderstorms still, just like yesterday. Scattered showers here and there. In the Pembina Valley region, Modern Winkler, Alton and Morris, we're seeing 18 degrees, mainly sunny also in that part of the province. Light westerly winds, just like Winnipeg. The region will see sunny conditions this morning. Then clouds will build later and local smoke throughout the day. Today's high will hit 28 degrees and the humidity will feel around 34 degrees. For the Westman region, Brandon all the way down to Nippo and surrounding area, we're looking at the smoky start there. 12 degrees at this time. Camp conditions, we still have that foggy conditions in low-lying areas. However, you get some sunshine. That would give way to increasing clouds by the afternoon period with the smoke still hanging in the air. There's a strong chance of showers and thunderstorm later for that part of the province, and we'll see highs near 27 degrees, but the humidity will make it feel in the mid-30s as well. For the Parkland region, Dauphin, Russell, Roblin, all the way down to Riding Mountain, we're seeing temperatures around 16 degrees at this time. Also foggy and misty in that part of the province. Smoke still continues continues to be present in that part of the province. Cloudy conditions will develop by the midday period, and we'll see afternoon showers in that part of the province. Expect highs along 26, 27 for that region. The humidity is going to make it feel close to 30 degrees. In Interlake region, Gimli, good morning. You are at 17 right now. Also some sunny conditions. However, the smoke is also present there. Light westerly winds for the Interlake region today. We should see thick smoke and hazy sunshine, giving away to cloudy conditions later in the day, high around 29. The humidity would get close to 35 degrees. There's a possibility of thunderstorms and showers late in the evening as well. Now we track conditions into the northern part of the province. The powerful influence surrounding areas, we're looking at misty conditions there with smoky conditions as well. 17 degrees. We should see this region getting to around 26 degrees, but visibility is a problem there because of the smoke from the fires. Thompson is at 16 and smoky as well. Light winds coming from the northeast. Cloudy skies, a chance of showers or drizzle later in the day. Highs around 23 degrees, and Churchill is at 12 degrees right now. Mostly cloudy. It's kind of windy there. Fog patches here and there that should clear, and then we'll see temperatures fall to 10 degrees. So it's smoky skies stretching across the province. Winnipeg, we are at 19. Expect heat, humidity, and a hazy day.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adiyemi, pardon me. Sierra Sanders, our show director, joins us for a look at the busier commute today.
It has been a busier commute compared to, some of my shifts that I work, where it's a little bit on the slower side, or gets lonely on the commuter line, as I like to say. I got some calls about a situation where emergency vehicles were on the scene on the corner just by the former Hudson's Bay building on northbound Memorial, just before it turns into Colony after Portage Avenue there. I don't know if how things are looking out there. So if you are driving in the area, kind of right outside the CBC...
We can point at it from here.
I can point at it from here as I turn away from the microphone to point. It's just down the street from our studio, but it's kind of tough to see all the way down there. So if you are driving and you're listening, I'd love to know what things are looking like there. It does sound like things are moving a little bit slower there on northbound Memorial due to that situation, and that emergency vehicles were on the scene and first responders as well. So if you have any updates on that situation, I'd love to hear about it. You can give me a call, and anything else that's happening out there. I'd love to know about it so I can let your fellow commuters know. That number to call is 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Sierra.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Sierra Sanders. The time is 7:41. You're listening to Information Radio. First, it was a meme. Then it was an Oscar hopeful. Now the 2019 film Marriage Story is being used to keep cattle safe? According to the Wall Street Journal, the United States Department of Agriculture has programmed drone cowhands to play the explosive argument scene from the movie on farms across the U.S., meaning every time a wolf wants to feast on livestock, it hears this.
You're so merged with your own selfishness, you don't even identify it as selfishness anymore.
Every day I wake up and I hope you're dead. Dead like if I could guarantee Henry would be okay, I'd hope you get an illness and then get hit by a car and die.
So that's a scene from Marriage Story from 2019, Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. And although the approach is unorthodox, I should say, the USDA says it's keeping the wolves at bay. Carla Radford and her husband Randy have been cattle farmers for nearly 50 years. Their ranch is in Roblin, just north of Riding Mountain National Park here in Manitoba. And they say the wolf problem is only getting worse with each passing year. So could this unusual tactic be the solution to their problems? Carla joins us now over Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what were your thoughts when you first heard, number one, that clip and how it's being used in the States to deter wolves?
Well, I was kind of taken back, or couldn't understand how that would apply to the wolf problem. But once I read the article and I became aware that they were using this through drones, a drone system. And so they needed some kind of, without saying get away, so some kind of explosive level of language and tone to actually scare the wolf, or to make them think there's humans present in the area.
Right. Do you think this would be effective on your farm if you had access to these drones playing that sound?
I think yes. We're doing a similar thing, maybe not with the drones because they're using them at night. So you need an infrared and thermal drone, and right now they run about $10,000. So they're a big investment to have on a ranch, and we definitely could be using it at calving time because at calving time our cattle are just calved on a grass system, but they're just outside our ranch here yard, and so we calve 400 cows in mainly a 6-week period. And that's when the wolves are attacking. They're feasting. It's a buffet right at their doorstep. And so if they have a den, which they have been parking dens just a couple of miles, a mile to 2 miles away from our ranch, within 5 days of calving, they arrive and go, oh, I don't have to run after a deer or an elk anymore. I've got babies sitting on the ground that I can feast on.
That must be tough to walk out and see when you're checking on the cows in the morning.
Yes, very tough. The last 3 years, it pretty much started 3 years ago at a level of unprecedented. Before that, I used to get up 6 a.m. That was my round, was to get on the quad, go see all the new babies that were born, mark them down. And now I regret. I'm just like in fear of what has happened in the night. The wolves will come in to kill between 2 and 4 in the morning. And so the last 2 years of calving, after the first year devastation, we couldn't stop it. And no one was there to help. They said they could, but this was a level they'd never seen before. We started living with them. So the last 2 calving seasons, we've taken a camper out in the field, even though we're a quarter of a mile. We put a camper. We have a big 11,000 generator that runs with noise. My husband drives in his vehicle all night. He's the night shift. And so he's driving with a flashlight and honking his horn. There's flashers on vehicles. Every vehicle I own is out there with flashers on, equipment flashers, fox lights, radios blasting.
Oh, wow.
It's a gong show just to create noise, to try and hold them back until we can remove them, because once a wolf has learned beef is food, they are ruined. They are not able to be readapted to just eat wildlife. And so they have to have removal, which is so sad because we like wildlife. We have 50 years of ranching. We have had deer. We like seeing deer and the odd elk, not massive herds like we're seeing today of hundreds. So because of whatever, lack of management of our government or letting the wildlife manage themselves, they have really, because of abundance of food supply out here, of croplands and animals, they are exploding in numbers.
How many cows would you say that you lose each year due to wolves?
The first 2 years trying to get a handle on it, we lost 20% of our calf crop. And then we had 20 to 25% of our cows' production affected, open, because they are so stressed with being bothered through the night, bawling cows, because a cow bawls for 2 to 3 days looking for a calf. And so that first year of calving, for 6 weeks, I had a cow bawling every day, because they would come in every second or third night and take a baby. And so that cow is constantly, different cows are calling. And so after 6 weeks, we're at the end, I just said, I'm going to kill someone. I am so stressed. Like, what I did think about with that video of the wedding thing, I was like, oh my gosh, that was my household during the day.
Oh no.
Yeah, we were so stressed and angry because we couldn't get a handle on stopping the killing.
Right.
We have friends who listen to your program regularly from Winnipeg, and they have cabins out here and they ride horses with us. And they both said, how do you take this death? They said, we could not be doing the cattle business knowing that we're feeding our babies to wolves.
So you mentioned you're doing a lot of human intervention. You basically live out with the cows and you drive around to make noise to scare away the wolves. When you talk about, you mentioned that the drone technology it exists. It's being used down in the States, but it's expensive. At what point would that investment be something you would consider here?
Well, we're at that point. right? We're really at that point. Now, I mean, ultimately, we would love to have, I know the government has gotten funding things in place, but the reality is that it's, as I said, here we're hemorrhaging and they're giving us a Band-Aid approach. So they have not tuned into what actually will work and to help invest in the money. The biggest thing too is that we are limited on manpower. We do the system we do of calving, the production system of cows, is because it is low labor. And so what's happened is it's created it to now be a high labor system, and which is not conducive to the profit that we make.
Right.
You know, for us to still be in the cattle industry, anybody at 50 years, it's because we've done things right, because it's the toughest agriculture business out there.
Carla, I really appreciate you joining us and providing your perspective on this, and looking forward to connecting with you in the future and kind of figuring out what's going on your ranch. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for having us. It's good that your listeners can hear what's happening out here, because the wolves, because of their size and growing, they're coming to the city. It's just a matter of time.
All right, Carla, thank you. That is Carla Radford. Her and her husband Randy are cattle ranchers in Roblin.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
10 minutes to 8 o'clock. You're listening to Information Radio. I'm Chloe Fries, and a quick traffic note here. We are hearing about a stalled semi. This is at King Edward Street and Skinner Road. It's blocking the southbound curb lane, so keep left to pass. Expect some southbound delays. Turning now to a story here from CBC's Ian Fraze. Health officials in northern Manitoba say a man endured racism while trying to access care in his final months of life. Stephen Rockwell was in remission from leukemia in late 2023 when his family says he made 3 trips to Thompson Hospital in severe pain. His family says each time he wasn't taken seriously. It was only until doctors received a letter from a different medical professional that they treated him urgently. And 4 months later, he died of cancer. He was 33 years old. CBC's Ian Fraze is here to walk through how all this happened and the family's demands for accountability. He is here in studio. Thank you for joining us, Ian.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me about Stephen Rockwell. Who was he?
Well, his sister, Stacy Rockwell, calls him a jokester. Loved to make people laugh. His 3 kids got to experience that. I've been watching some videos of his interactions with his family. It's really great. He lived in Thompson and was a community service officer, or community safety officer, rather. I'll let her sister describe what he was like.
He was so sensitive and caring. He, like I said, he was like a big teddy bear, like a gentle giant. He was 6'2", like 200 and some pounds, and he cared about everybody.
But by early 2023, that started to change. His health started to fail.
So what happened next?
Well, he was diagnosed with leukemia, an acute form of it, and after a few months, he was in remission. So, good news. But a few months later, by the fall, his eyesight was going cross-eyed. He started to get really severe pain, like in his back. And over a matter of weeks, in kind of September, October, he went to Thompson's Hospital 3 times, and family says he was brushed aside about his eyesight. Doctor said, well, it's just stress from your earlier cancer diagnosis. With the pain, he was sent home with painkillers, but, no medical tests, no blood work. And he was accused of just looking for drugs. Here's his sister again.
Treated like you're a drug seeker. You're just like any other Indigenous off the street. That narrative was placed on him, which is wrong.
So what eventually convinced doctors that there was a serious issue happening here?
It was his mom, Leona Massan. Fed up, did not know anywhere else to turn, so she actually took her son to a chiropractor. And instead of doing an adjustment, the chiropractor just noticed there's something odd in the back. There's a mass here that they don't have an explanation for. So he wrote a letter to the doctors. Massan took that letter, brought it to the doctors. Initially, they scoffed at it. Seems like they didn't think too highly of the chiropractor's opinions, but the doctor's mind was changed.
It took the chiropractor
to write a letter to the doctors here at Thompson General. Only then did they listen to us, because another doctor is giving a recommendation to another doctor.
A CT scan was taken immediately, and it showed that his leukemia had returned, and with a vengeance. Tumors all over spine, hip, behind the left eye. He was taken to the cancer ward in Winnipeg, and then 4 months later, March of 2024, he died.
So there was a delay of weeks before medical staff confirmed his leukemia had come back. What is the family saying now about how that delay impacted his treatment?
Significantly, a lot of what ifs they're left with. They say his health issues were ignored because he was Indigenous. And in July of this year, Northern health officials met with the family and they agreed racism was indeed a factor here. Health Minister Uzoma Asaguera was not at the meeting, but they pushed for it to happen.
So I think it's an important and necessary step that they did acknowledge racism occurred here, and now we have to do the work of unpacking that and making sure it doesn't happen moving forward.
What that looks like isn't clear yet, but the Northern Health Region told us, CBC, in a statement that it is expressing its condolences to Mr. Rockwell's family, and it remains committed to the declaration it signed in 2022 to eradicate Indigenous-specific racism.
How's the family taking the news that health officials agree that racism occurred here?
So his mom, Leona Massan, it says this admission gives her a tiny bit of peace, but she still has some questions.
I was thinking about what ifs. What if they would have listened to us? What if they would have given him treatment faster? Maybe I still would have had my son.
So, Ian, what is the family asking for now? What's next?
Well, up next will be a meeting with Northern Health. Massan says that they've agreed to that. She wants that meeting to discuss what happens next. This initial meeting happened, 2-3 weeks ago. I just texted her last night. I'm asking, hey, when will this be scheduled? And she says, not yet. She wrote to me, grief hit me hard.
Ian, thank you so much for bringing us this story today.
Thanks for having me.
Ian Fraze is the provincial affairs reporter at CBC Manitoba, and you can watch his story tonight on the CBC News at 6. The time is 7:56. You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Right now in Winnipeg at the Forks, 19 degrees. Looking at sunny skies for most of the day here, seeing some increasing cloudiness this afternoon. Local smoke in the air. We are not under an advisory or a warning here, but that smoke is still present. Looking at a high of 29 degrees. With the humidity out there, it'll feel like 34 if we do reach that forecasted high. Tonight, mainly cloudy. We could see showers or thunderstorms beginning today late this evening with that local smoke and an overnight low of 18. Still to come on Information Radio. There's nothing a good old handshake can't fix, right? That's what the CEO of the International Peace Garden is hoping, at least. It's ahead of Handshake Across the Border. The new event is aiming to bring together hundreds of Canadians and Americans alike this weekend in a show of friendship amid continuing political tensions. We'll bring you that story just after 8 o'clock. It's time now for news headlines with CBC's Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, some of the last wildfire evacuees from Tatasqueyak Cree Nation began their journey home last night. Nearly 70 people boarded a bus in Winnipeg bound for the First Nation northeast of Thompson. They have been away from home, some of them since May. There was rain, thunder, there was hail, and alerts sounding on cell phones. But Environment and Climate Change Canada says there has been no confirmed tornado arising out of yesterday's severe weather. We're going to hear from Environment and Climate Change Canada coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
And thank you to the team this morning on Information Radio. Abby Adiemi, Sierra Sanders, Ezeka Abdelatif is in charge of our YouTube live stream, and hello to the folks watching on YouTube. Just a reminder here, when it comes to the commute, there is a stalled semi. This is blocking the southbound curb lane at King Edward Street and Skinner Road. If that is part of your daily commute, keep left to pass. Expect some southbound delays there on King Edward. And of course, if you see anything else or have any updates, please call our commuter line. Sierra Sanders is ready to take those calls. 204-788-3093. Stay with us here on Information Radio. Lots of stories, News, weather, music still to come. It continues just after World Report.
Today on Q.
I'm Garvey Bailey, sitting in for Tom Power. Debbie Young and Itafrika grew up in Jamaica watching their mom perform as a dub poet, and they knew they wanted to do the same thing.
Our language of integrity. Yes.
They're an acclaimed playwright and performer, and they'll be here to reflect on an incredible career.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Sean Henry. Canada and Mexico this week are lining up future trade deals without the United States, bypassing their now less dependable partner. But Mexico and Canada have taken different tracks with Trump. A look at Mexico's approach to the U.S. coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Sam Sampson. The cost of goods entering the U.S. from dozens of countries is jumping, with new tariffs between 10 and 50% have now taken effect. And already, U.S. President Donald Trump is celebrating the revenue it will generate. The CBC's Tom Perry joins us from Washington. Tom, what is Trump saying about all this?
Donald Trump was back on social media last night. He posted a message in all caps just before midnight. He said that reciprocal tariffs take effect at midnight tonight, billions of dollars, largely from countries that have taken advantage of the United States for many years, laughing all the way, will start flowing into the USA. So that was Trump declaring victory as his tariffs kicked in on more than 90 countries. So Brazil is facing a 50% tariff. Laos and Myanmar are at 40%, Switzerland at 39%. And these are countries that have not struck a deal with Trump, though even those countries that have are still getting hit. The European Union, for instance, has agreed to a 15% tariff on its goods. Now, Trump says he's not done. He's talking about a new tariff on semiconductors. Here's what he said about that yesterday.
100% tariff on all chips and semiconductors coming into the United States. But if you've made a commitment to build, or if you're in the process of building, as many are, there is no tariff.
So that was Trump talking about a tariff on semiconductors. Now, America's neighbors, Canada and Mexico, still haven't reached any agreement with Trump, and they're really still seeking clarity on what their largest trading partner expects from them.
How are these tariffs being felt in the U.S.?
Well, Trump is not wrong when he says these tariffs are generating billions of dollars. They brought in roughly $152 billion through July. But as economists point out, despite what Trump says, it's not foreign countries or foreign governments that are paying these tariffs. That money is coming largely from U.S. importers, and we've heard from U.S. businesses who are saying that they're going to have to raise prices. The latest monthly figures show appliances, clothing, and furnishings got more expensive in June. We saw a weak U.S. jobs report last week that led Trump to fire the head of the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. So it's still early, but the impact of these tariffs is starting to ripple through the U.S. economy.
Tom Perry in Washington, thank you.
Thank you.
Brazil's president says he is treating his country's strategic minerals as a matter of national sovereignty.
Agora, o que nós queremos, na verdade, é o seguinte: nós não vamos permitir.
Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva says what happened in the last century cannot happen again. He does not want Brazil to export its valuable natural resources just to have to buy them back later as expensive processed products. Brazil is facing a punishing 50% tariff on its goods in the United States, and Trump has been working to secure U.S. mineral supplies. Lula says his government will work to map Brazil's complete mineral wealth, and set up a council to make sure Brazil retains control of its resources. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting with his security cabinet today. He's expected to make his case for an expanded military action in Gaza. It's a move that would face huge opposition in Israel and internationally. Susan Ormiston is following the story in Tel Aviv.
The government plan backed by Benjamin Netanyahu is being characterized as a 5-month military maneuver that will push into Gaza City and try to move 1 million people towards the south, according to sources speaking to Israeli media. These are areas not currently held or controlled by the IDF, and it's believed where the remaining 20 surviving hostages are held. Critics argue it would be extremely risky, endangering hostages and guaranteeing more Palestinian and IDF soldiers' deaths after already 22 months of war. Last night, the families of hostages scuffled with police during a protest around the Israeli military headquarters in Tel Aviv.
We need your help that this time all 50 hostages will be released, because a month later, just a year ago, my family member was executed by Hamas terrorists.
They've called Netanyahu's plan a disastrous decision. Were it to be voted in tonight, it could still be modified or changed. The move also signals the government has no current expectation for successful ceasefire talks. Hamas has hardened its position in recent days, saying it will not disarm before the guarantee of a Palestinian state. Egypt reports nearly 1,000 trucks have been able to cross into Gaza over the last 10 days, an improvement, but far below the basic needs of civilians. Daily distribution at the aid centers backed by Israel and the U.S. are functioning, but they are chaotic and sometimes deadly. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Tel Aviv.
In northern India, rescuers are evacuating people left stranded by flash flooding. People are being picked up by helicopter because many of the roads are washed out. Officials say 400 people need to be rescued. So far, just half of them have been airlifted to safety. Intense rains triggered flooding and landslides this week, washing away cell towers and knocking out power. Manitoba's government says it's taking steps to eliminate racism from the healthcare system. But Stephen Rockwell's family says it's got a long way to go. The 33-year-old father died from cancer. His loved ones say his health concerns were ignored because he is Indigenous. As Ian Fraze reports, they're still pushing for answers.
He went somewhere where they were supposed to help him, and they didn't give him help.
Stephen Rockwell was in remission from leukemia in late 2023 when his sister says he made 3 trips to the Thompson Hospital in severe pain. Stacey Rockwell says he was sent home without any medical testing and accused of just looking for drugs.
And they let him suffer? That's wrong.
His family says the hospital only treated him with urgency after a chiropractor felt something odd in his back. Stephen's cancer had returned. 4 months later, in March 2024, he died. His family says his health issues were ignored because he was Indigenous. And in July, officials, at the request of the health minister, met the family. Minister Uzoma Seguera said,
Cancer diagnosis is challenging for anyone. Adding experiences of racism into that healthcare journey is really just unfair.
Northern Health runs the hospital. It expressed condolences to the family and says it's committed to eliminating Indigenous-specific racism. Stephen's mother, Leona Massan, still has questions.
I was thinking, what if they would have listened to us?
A heartbreaking loss the family says might have been avoided with more care. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A number of people who bought digital Costco gift cards say their cards have been drained of all the cash. The retailer is saying little about what happened, so reporter Sophia Harris went digging, and she found the problem may be gift card fraud.
I checked my balance and was shocked to find that there were $0 on there.
Shelley Shue of Perth, Ontario, got a nasty surprise in June. She discovered someone had drained the roughly $200 on her digital Costco gift card, known as a shop card.
I was very upset.
There are dozens more customer complaints online about drained shop cards. CBC News spoke with 5 affected customers. They said Costco offered few details about what happened, and 2, including Shue, are still fighting for a refund.
Yeah, I've been really disappointed with how Costco has managed this situation.
Costco didn't respond to repeated requests for comment, but in a letter sent to some victims, the retailer stated its ongoing investigation indicates that a limited number of digital shop cards may have been used by unauthorized individuals.
They're aware there's an issue.
Lawyer and business professor Daniel Chai says Costco needs to be transparent.
The proper thing for Costco to do right now
is to admit there's a problem and not let this fester.
The Retail Council of Canada says Canadians lose millions of dollars each year due to gift card fraud. And those victims don't always get their money back. Tech analyst Ritesh Kotak says that needs to change.
It is important that we create better mechanisms in place, more protection, and also remedies to make people whole that have been victimized by these fraudsters.
$200, that's a good chunk of money.
As for Shu, she's hopeful. Her refund is coming soon. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Victoria Mboko is hoping for a win at the Canadian Open final tonight in Montreal, and her childhood coach will be cheering her on. Pierre Lamarche remembers how determined Mboko was from a young age. He says she wanted to play at just 4 years old.
Vicky quite simply would walk on the court when I would work with Gracia, her sister, and Gracia would be picking up the ball, and Vicky would go and stand at the baseline and simply demand that we feed her some balls.
Tonight, Mboko faces four-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka. The Canadian Open women's final gets started at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. That is your latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. And if you're enjoying the World Report podcast, follow us, tell a friend. You got to help spread the word. I'm Sam Sampson. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. Coming up on the show, there's nothing a good old handshake can't fix, right? That's what the CEO of the International Peace Gardens is hoping, at least, ahead of Handshake Across the Border. The new event is aiming to bring together hundreds of Canadians and Americans this weekend in a show of friendship amid continuing political tensions. We'll hear from the CEO of the Peace Gardens coming up next here on Information Radio. Time now for news headlines with Heather Wells. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, for the past 4 years, Manitoba has been farming out criminal cases to defense lawyers to prosecute because there aren't enough Crown attorneys to handle them all. Since 2021, the province has paid defense lawyers more than $674,000 to prosecute cases. The Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys is fighting a grievance with the government over workload issues. Health officials in Manitoba say an Indigenous man endured racism while seeking health care in the final months of his life. Stephen Rockwell's family say hospital staff failed to take his concerns seriously on 3 visits to Thompson's Hospital. His issues, they say, were only urgently treated after a chiropractor noticed something odd in Stephen's back. 4 months later, in March of 2024, Stephen died of cancer. We are going to hear his story in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Hello and thank you to the team on the show this morning. Azika Abdelatif is in charge of our YouTube live stream. Sierra Sanders, our show director. Abby Adiemi, our show technician, also keeping up with your weather forecast. Good morning.
Good morning once again, Chloe. It's smoky day with hazy stretch from hot and humid south all the way to smoky conditions in the northern part of the province, bringing that poor air quality to the region. We're talking about from Dauphin all the way down to Gillam and Churchill, the York region. Visibility poor in many spots, and the breathing issues will be a problem, so you need to take care if the smoke is affecting you. 19 degrees right now in Winnipeg. It is sunny outside, local smoke in the air. Through the day, we should expect expect some sunny conditions, and then by the afternoon period, we'll see a transition to cloudy conditions. The smoke will linger, and it's going to be a hot one. We're going to see temperatures warm up to 29 degrees. The humidity is going to make it feel closer to 34 degrees. Up north, we're seeing temperatures between 12 and 18 degrees at this time, and smoke is still present in the air. But across the province, the north is going to be staying smoky. We're going to see temperatures warm up to 26, while in the southern regions, we're seeing temperatures near 29, but most of the regions will see mid-30s with that humidity factored in. And if we look ahead into Friday, it's going to be more like unsettled with clouds rolling in, scattered showers in the forecast, and even thunderstorms. And we may be seeing rain at 20 to 40 millimeters somewhere in between into the weekend. But right now, Winnipeg, we are at 19, mainly sunny and smoke in the air.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adeyemi. Sierra Sanders, show director, joins us now for a look at the commute. Good morning.
Hi, Chloe. Glad to be back. We were mentioning a stalled semi at King Edward Street and Skinner Road. I'm happy to let folks know that semi has been cleared. So all lanes are open. Traffic should be moving along smoothly through there, and delays should diminish here in the next little bit. So yeah, that stalled semi that we were talking about at King Edward Street and Skinner Road has been cleared. We still have a little bit of time left in the show, so if something comes up for you, whether you are walking, biking, driving, e-scootering, or if you're here in Winnipeg or out on the highways, I'd love to let your fellow commuters know about that with our time left in the show. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
Coming up to 8:15, you're listening to Information Radio. Well, the last time we spoke with Tim Chapman, he was responding to angry emails from Canadians. It was mid-February. Tensions were heating up between Canada and the U.S. U.S. President Donald Trump had just announced a further hike in steel and aluminum tariffs on top of his initial executive order of a 25% tariff on imports from Canada. So why was Tim Chapman, of all people, receiving angry emails?
Folks kind of got a little more in depth and said, we're just really disappointed with what's going on right now. And one individual said, the garden was one place that made sense to vent to. But then also, once we talked a little bit more, they said, might be a good idea to just keep coming and showing that example of peaceful relationship among citizens.
Chapman is the CEO of the International Peace Gardens, a massive garden and conservatory straddling the border of the U.S. and Canada. And he's continuing to build those peaceful relationships among citizens through a new event taking place this weekend. It's called Handshake Across the Border. Tim joins us over Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe. Thank you for having me.
So, Tim, our viewers on YouTube can see where you're at. You're surrounded, oddly enough, by palm trees and cactus. Can you explain to our listeners where you're standing right now?
Yes. Right now, I'm in our conservatory, which is home to the Don Vitko collection of cacti and succulents, which is believed to be the world's most diverse collection of cacti and succulents inside. So this beautiful 18,000 square foot facility is open year round, and a beautiful site of plants from all over the world.
It's gorgeous. Now, let's talk about what's happening this weekend. What is Handshake Across the Border?
So the Handshake Across the Border is part of our summer floral celebration, which is happening Saturday. It's our chance to really show our visitors the garden in peak bloom with a variety of vendors, food trucks, different activities for the whole family. And this year, because of the strained relationship right now between Washington and Ottawa, we really wanted to do something that is on brand for us and brings people together, because we truly believe that the average American and the average Canadian still truly values the friendship and cross-border success we've had as two countries. So at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning, we're going to do a handshake literally across our border channel. For those folks and listeners and viewers who have been there here at the garden, the border channel literally runs the 49th parallel. So we want to show the world just how important it is, this relationship between Canadians and Americans, with this symbolic handshake across the border.
When did this idea first come up for you and the staff at the gardens?
Probably about the time in February that we last talked. We were still finalizing some of our event programming for the summer and not knowing how this rhetoric about the tariffs in particular was going to go down. We anticipated, there was going to be a little less border crossing this summer. But there was still always an opportunity to, like I said, bring Canadians and Americans together. And we're so fortunate to have this garden on an international border. There's nothing else like it in the world. So we want to make good use of this incredible location we have and really show Americans and Canadians that we are still far better together as friends than apart.
Right, and the timing is calculated, of course. When we were speaking to you, folks were venting. They were using the garden as a place to kind of vent their frustrations to. What have you been hearing since then from visitors at the garden about how they're feeling right now?
Yeah, not as much as earlier in the year when those tariff discussions really ramped up, because in part, I think they've been off, they've been on, they've been off, they've been on. So we have, though, seen a decrease in Canadian visitors at this point in the year compared to 2024. And that could also be the dollars being so different. But the more we got the word out about the handshake, the more positive feedback we got, and people saying, that is a great idea. We see it every day here at the garden, Americans and Canadians coming together, making new friends just as they're walking down the floral stretch. And as a staff, I think we probably talked about this in February, we have Canadians and Americans. We all get along well, and we want to see the garden thrive, but we also want to see folks from both sides of the border further understand and appreciate that longstanding cooperation that we've had.
Does it ever feel like a lot of pressure put on a garden of all places?
Yes and no. I mean, we have a lot of day-to-day work that keeps us busy 12 months of the year. But yeah, if you do notice a drop in visitation, you try to explore all possibilities. So that adds a little pressure, but the garden has always stood for promoting this incredible unfortified border. There's nothing like it in the world. And it's a testament to the long history of Canadians and Americans really appreciating each other. So we don't really look at it as pressure, more as an opportunity to continue doing what we do, which is bring people together.
Let's talk about how the handshake physically is going to work. Are you going to be lining up Canadians and Americans on either side of the border and then I guess shaking hands all at once, or how's it going to look?
Yeah, great question, Chloe. So we'll start the handshake right around 11 o'clock with a local high school choir singing the two anthems. And we're really encouraging folks to get here as early as possible in case there are long lines getting in. But our staff and volunteers will be directing folks to the different parking lots and then to different attendees along the border channel. So there's a few spots where the water channel runs. So we'll just try to make sure people are lining up in a safe place where they can easily reach across the border. And if they're best case scenario, there's close to an even amount of Canadians and Americans, but we won't be too tough about which side to stand on. It's more just the fact that we're getting everyone together to show this support for each other.
It's probably hard to predict, but how many visitors are you expecting? I know it's part of another event that's happening, so there's a lot going on. What are you expecting?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. We've been doing a lot of promotion, a lot of interviews, and honestly, if there were 1,000 Americans and 1,000 Canadians, I think that would be a huge success. But this is also the first year we're trying it, and it's going to become an annual occurrence. So it'll be a learning experience for us, but also for the folks who show up, hopefully just a really fun experience, along with taking part in the different activities and vendors and the good food and drink that'll be available at the garden all day Saturday.
What do visitors need to know about accessing the gardens? Do they need a passport?
The passport is the preferred document, but if you don't have a passport, that's okay. If you have a government issued photo ID, like a Manitoba driver's license, that will get you back through the Manitoba port as you exit the Peace Garden. Minors should have a birth certificate with them if they don't already have a photo ID. And if folks can bring both, if they don't have the passport and they can bring both the photo ID and the birth certificate, it just speeds the process of getting back through the Boys Vein port of entry that much easier.
Tim, I want to take us in your imagination to Saturday. When you envision this happening, what message do you hope it sends? What do you hope it looks like with all of these people from two different countries just shaking hands?
Yeah, I hope we can really put together some beautiful imagery of people gathering together under the our mission of bringing folks together, but also in this beautiful outdoor setting where studies show, and we truly believe, when folks come together in more natural settings and get away from their screens for a little bit, the relationships you can build are that much stronger, and the discussions you can have are that much more fruitful when you're surrounded by the natural world.
Tim, thank you so much for joining us here on Information Radio, and excited to see the photos that come out of Saturday's event.
Thank you, Chloe.
Tim Chapman is the CEO of the International Peace Gardens. It extends across the 49th parallel between Boys Vein, Manitoba and Dunseith, North Dakota. And for more information on the summer floral celebration and the handshake across the border, you can visit peacegarden.com.
On This is Manitoba, we celebrate who we are, and we lean into the challenges here that can make this place even better. I'm Marcy Marcusa, host of This is Manitoba. On the podcast, we tackle one topic in a new episode every Friday. It's always about us, the news, and the people here. Get into some local listening. Find and follow This is Manitoba wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, we've got a tune to send you into the rest of your Thursday morning here. It's from Peacocking. It's an electronic music duo made up of, they say, your two favorite uncles. Their new EP, Let It Marinate, is now available for fans, and they've been busy gearing up for a summer full of live shows and DJ sets. Here's Yogurt, the opening track off their upcoming EP.
Do you have anything other than Activia in your fridge, bro? Seriously. I'm regular.
us.
That was Peacocking with Yogurt. It's the first taste, get it, of their new EP, Let It Marinate. And I think that's the first song I have ever heard that featured the word probiotic. But you know, I love a weird little song. I'll take all of the weird little songs. You're listening to Information Radio. Still to come later on Radio Noon, more and more families are seeking out home care for their loved ones. But where do you start? How much will it cost? How do you set up your family member for a healthy home care relationship? Two experts in home care will be joining host Marjorie Dowhouse today on our Radio Noon call-in. That begins just after 12:30. You can call in with your questions, your stories. Share with Marjorie and our guests today how home care has helped your family or what questions you have around it. That's coming up later on CBC Radio 1 on Radio Noon. It's time now for your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's 20 degrees, a little bit muggy out there. We've got beautiful sunny skies, but clouds are going to move back in, bringing with them a chance of thunderstorms again later this evening. But for this afternoon, a high of 29 with local smoke. Health officials in Manitoba say an Indigenous man endured racism while seeking health care in the final months of his life. Stephen Rockwell's family say hospital staff failed to take his concerns seriously on 3 visits to Thompson's Hospital. His issues, they say, were only treated urgently after a chiropractor noticed something odd in Stephen's back. 4 months later, March of 2024, Stephen died of cancer. His mom, Leona Massan, says her son's health issues were ignored because he was Indigenous.
I was thinking about what if. What if they would have listened to us? What if they would have given him treatment faster?
Northern Health expressed condolences to the family and says it is committed to eliminating Indigenous-specific racism. If you have been a victim of crime, you know how important the role of a Crown attorney is in prosecuting your case. A CBC News investigation has found the government has been outsourcing most of that work to defense attorneys because of workload issues. CBC I-Team's Caroline Bargout explains.
From 2021 until January of this year, Manitoba Prosecution Services has outsourced dozens of criminal cases to defense lawyers. In the first 2 years, it was only 3 cases a year, but that number grew. 28 cases have been prosecuted by defense lawyers instead of Crown so far in 2025, and the year is not over yet. The province says most are a result of a conflict of interest, but admits workload issues make up a fifth of the cases going to defense lawyers. Michael Desatel is the vice president of the Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys.
The workload is getting heavier and heavier, and the burden is getting heavier and heavier, and we're not gaining as many people as we need to be gaining in the office.
The union is currently fighting a grievance with the government over what it calls dangerously heavy workloads. The government says 8 more crowns were hired last month, but that still leaves about 5 vacancies. Desatel says the province needs to hire more crowns and incentivize them to stay in Manitoba. Caroline Bargout, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Some of the last wildfire evacuees from Tatasqueyak Cree Nation began their journey home last night. Nearly 70 people boarded a bus in Winnipeg bound for the First Nation northeast of Thompson. Since her community was first evacuated at the end of May, Crystal Flett has bounced around between hotels in Brandon, Gillam, and Winnipeg. Getting on the bus for home, she looks forward to seeing her grandchildren.
My grandkids been in Thompson and Gillam. We're separated at long 2 months. I'm feeling very happy for Mom. Very glad to be going home.
Flett says she feels for those whose homes were destroyed by wildfires. Officials say at least 7 homes in Tatasqueyak were lost. Manitoba's premier is accusing a group of U.S. politicians of playing political games by calling out Canada over wildfire smoke billowing across the border. Republican state lawmakers from Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, and North Dakota have filed a formal complaint against Canada to the head of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the International Joint Commission, demanding investigation of Canada's wildfire management practices. Premier Rob Canoe says they're just trying to grab headlines at an inappropriate time for thousands of Canadians directly affected by the fires. Manitoba's last urban cattle auction mart closed its gates this summer. Over the years, the stockyard saw hundreds of thousands of cows pass through Brandon. The operator, Heartland Livestock Services, announced the shutdown in July. Manitoba Beef Producers President Matthew Atkinson says some producers will need to travel farther when they want to sell.
We know it's expensive, whether you're hauling yourself or custom hauling, it's expensive to move those cattle. And so we want to have a long-term relationship with the buyers in the auction mart, as well as minimize our costs in getting those cattle to those locations.
Atkinson says nearby auction marts can help absorb some sales. They'll need to find space for around 500 to 600 cattle a week, and that number will only grow as the industry hits its sales peak in the fall. Well, there was rain, thunder, and hail, and there were alerts sounding on cell phones everywhere. But Environment and Climate Change Canada says there has been no confirmed tornado arising out of yesterday's severe weather. Meteorologist Robin Dick says they are aware of tornado sightings.
There were some really good photos, and by really good, I mean that they looked like they were very close to the ground, and on radar it was a very... it looked very much like it could have been a tornado, but there'll be more investigation.
Dick says Environment Canada is working with Northern Tornadoes Project to confirm a twister touchdown Tuesday south of Verdun. Now, last night, severe weather did produce golf ball-sized hail in St. Andrews and Gunton and loony-sized hail in Steinbach. And the severe weather may not be behind us. We expect, she says, a possibility of thunderstorms again late this evening throughout southern Manitoba. You can find the latest news on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Sierra Sanders in for one last look at the commute.
Chloe, a slower last half of the show here, or last half hour when it comes to traffic. So nothing major popping out. We had a couple of calls earlier this morning, but from the sounds of it, all of those situations have been cleared up and things are moving smoothly here as we hop off the air.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Abby Adiemi with another look at your weather forecast.
Expect hot, humid, and hazy conditions across the province. Warming to 29 in Winnipeg, 28 in Portage, and 23 in Thompson. Right now, Winnipeg, we are at 20 degrees.
Thank you. And thank you to the team on the show today. Associate producers Issa Kixon, Chidi Akuma, Corey Funk. Our news team, Heather Wells, Josh Crabb, Bryce Hoy. Thanks to Ian Fraze and Caroline Bargoot. Azika Abdelatif is our YouTube live stream producer. Thank you to Abby and Sierra. I'm Chloe Friesen. Thanks for spending your morning with us here on Information Radio. Lots of great programming coming up on CBC Radio 1. Stay with us.
Airdrops are insufficient to